Welcome to the fantasy audiobook, Pokémon, the legendary trainer who farms at home. Chapter 41. Looking at the simple map in his hand, Chen-Shi waved his hand. Okay, Swampert, bury him. Yoshino was confused and shouted anxiously. What do you mean by bury, brother? I've already told you, shouldn't you send me to jail? Letisk. Swampert didn't care about that, he ran away with one in each hand, obviously he had done this many times. Daigo was a little confused. Shouldn't we hand him over to Junsha? Chen-Shi said disdainfully. Believe it or not, we send him to jail today, and he will be out tomorrow. Daigo opened his mouth, as if he wanted to refute, but when he thought of the situation within the alliance, he didn't say anything. The Junsha family does have a strong sense of justice, but they are only responsible for arresting people, not imprisoning them. Then, Daigo listened to Chen-Shi continue. There is a girl named Yuzi in our Green Shade town, who is the same age as me. Her parents are senior investigators of the Alliance, and they died while on a mission 2 years ago. The Alliance promised to compensate Yuzi with a potential king-level Gosanjia and 5 million Alliance coins. But guess what happened? Daigo thought for a moment and said, did the Alliance not give it? Chen-Shi sneered, it would be better if they didn't give it. When the Gosanjia came into her hands, it had already turned into a stingtail elf egg. This is fooling people like fools. My grandfather was so angry that he went straight to President Miyazaki. In the end, it was discovered that this king-level Gosanjia had been exploited layer by layer, and when it came into Yuzi's hands, it turned into a stingtail elf. The 5 million Alliance coins disappeared without a trace. Quote. The more Daigo listened, the uglier his face looked. He had heard his father say that the Alliance was corrupt, but he had never thought it would be so corrupt. Both parents died fighting for the Alliance, but their daughter was still bullied like this. If this gets out, who would dare to work for the Alliance in the future? How is Yuko now? My grandfather helped her get her things back. I heard that she is traveling in the Kalos area now. Daigo's face looked better. Chen-Shi said. In the future, when you meet the people of the Lava Team and the Ocean Team, don't be soft-hearted. Listen to what they say about fair duels. These people are all desperate criminals. They won't talk to you about fairness. And they will. Forget it. Chen-Shi suddenly said solemnly. Daigo, you have to work hard. Become the champion as soon as possible, and then eliminate the bad atmosphere in the Alliance. I believe you can do it. Quote. Anyway, with Daigo's talent, the championship will be in his pocket sooner or later. The reason why Chen-Shi told him this is that he hopes he can change in the future. Don't let the Alliance continue to decay, and make this world a better place. Hearing this, although Daigo felt something was wrong, he still agreed. Then he asked, what should we do now? It's not far from the Lava Team's base. It's too dangerous to continue here. Although Daigo said it was dangerous, there was no fear on his face, and there was even a little eagerness in his eyes. The two people said before that they found many strange stones, and Daigo was very interested in it. Chen-Shi didn't understand Daigo's idea. It just so happened that he himself was also interested in those strange stones. The two looked at each other and nodded in unison. Let's do it. ×2. But they have a quasi-king level strongman, how can we do it? Quote. Chen-Shi was also silent. The further back you go, the bigger the gap in level becomes. It sounds like there is only one level difference between quasi-king and gym level, but in fact, two people combined are not enough to fight a quasi-king. Of course, it is the quasi-king who has at least 3 quasi-king Pokémon. If that person only has 1 or 2, Chen-Shi and Daigo are still confident to fight. Besides, he has some senior team members and so on. Who knows what level of person he is? Chen-Shi touched his chin. We have to make a long-term plan. I know something about this Lava Team. Their people are extremely good at fire Pokémon, which is also not good for you. Daigo also felt that what he said made sense. The attribute is indeed not good for him, and he is stronger than himself. There is no chance of winning no matter how you look at it. But Daigo is not a person who gives up easily. He keeps thinking of ways in his mind. Chen-Shi said. The Lava Team is here to find meteorites, so it is impossible for them to stay in the base all the time. Quote. Those middle and senior members are probably out, and the base may only be guarded by the cadre named Huoshu. Dao nodded, as if what you said made sense. Then what? Chen Shi coughed and cast his eyes on Duolongqi, who had been silent since the beginning. Duolongqi suddenly had an ominous premonition in his heart. In the temporary base of the magma team, a red-haired middle-aged man sat on a chair with a big horse and a golden sword. This is the new cadre of the magma team, Huoshu. Some time ago, Huoshu was sent by the leader to Meteor Falls to find a meteorite. And promised that if he found it, he could help his other 3 Pokémon advance to Quasi-King. Huoshu was moved, and all his men rushed into Meteor Falls. Huoshu was playing with 5 shrunken Pokeballs in his hand. I didn't expect to have an unexpected harvest. With these 5 baby dragons, even if this mission is not completed, I have the confidence to let the other 3 Pokémon under my command advance to Quasi-Kings. 4 of them can be sold, and leaving 1 is enough. If there are too many, I don't have so many resources to train them. Just as Huoshu was immersed in joy, a pair of narrow yellow eyes were scanning the entire base. This was the captured Dragonki. As a ghost Pokémon, invisibility is a piece of cake. Dragonki carefully observed, and when his eyes swept over the 3 Pokeballs on Huoshu's waist, a trace of solemnity appeared in his eyes. The aura in these 3 Pokeballs is very strong. Dragonki feels that he is probably not a match, and the other 3 are much worse. It is about the same as his own strength. Then, Dragonki's eyes stopped on a pile of stones on the ground. These are all stones that the lava team thinks are useless. Some people have dug out evolution stones, but they were all picked out. Duolongqi remembered that when he was a child, he was looking for strange stones. Then, Duolongqi took out a space backpack prepared in advance, and took them away one by one when Huoshu was not paying attention. During this period, Duolongqi was always cautious, for fear of making a noise. Soon, the pile of useless stones was packed, and Duolongqi left here immediately. At this time, Huoshu didn't know that something was missing in the base. After all, he was not Daigo, and he had no interest in this pile of useless stones. Now Huoshu is still immersed in a beautiful fantasy. The 2 of them were waiting here boredly at the place where Daigo was digging stones. You just sent Doranchi out like this, aren't you afraid of any accidents? Chen Shi touched his chin and said, it's okay, Doranchi has a strong ability to hide. Unless there are also ghost-type Pokémon or psychic-type Pokémon, the probability of being discovered is not high. Sure enough, at the moment when his voice fell, Doranchi's cry rang around the 2 of them. Chia. Doranchi held a space backpack and ran to Chen Shi excitedly to ask for credit. The worry in Chen Shi's eyes was finally put down. Great job, Chia. Doranchi patted his chest. Of course. How could there be any accidents when Honda Dragon took action? Then Doranchi said a lot of nonsense, and Daigo was confused listening to it. Chen Shi could understand. You mean that person has 3 Pokeballs that make you feel very powerful, and there are 3 Pokeballs with the same aura as you. That person also said that he has 5 baby dragons, 4 of which he wants to sell. Chia. Duolongqi nodded. Yes, that's right, I heard it with my own ears. That's strange. Chen Shi had also heard from Yoshino before that the fire tree got 5 baby dragons from nowhere. Originally thought that the fire tree was bragging, painting a big pie for his subordinates, but it turned out to be true. But where did the fire tree find 5 baby dragons? Could it be? At this time, Daigo interrupted Chen Shi's thinking. Don't think about those, just look at the stones. There are so many of them, and I don't know how long they have been digging here, there must be a lot of stones. Chen Shi's mouth twitched, opened the backpack and poured out all the stones inside. But the result surprised him greatly. There were actually 3 Mega Evolution stones. There was also 1 for Garchomp. The other 2 were Mega Evolution stones for Venusaur and Ice Demon respectively. Chen Shi quickly picked up the 3 stones. Since they were brought by Duolong, he was not polite to Daigo. Daigo did not care about the 3 stones and studied the other stones. Chen Shi took a look. They were all useless waste stones. However, they were collected by the magma team, and these stones were very beautiful, which suited Daigo's taste. Look, Daigo was almost drooling. You only want those 3 stones, don't you want these? Seeing Daigo looking at him expectantly, Chen Shi said directly, these are all for you. But you have to help me revive a fossil Pokémon later. Duolongchi was immediately excited when he heard this, and hurriedly looked at Daigo, waiting for his answer. No problem. Daigo didn't disappoint the man and the dragon, and agreed directly. But you have to wait until the machine is rebuilt before you can revive. You shouldn't be in a hurry, right? The current machine has exploded, and the new energy converter is still being manufactured. If you are in a hurry, Daigo can't do anything. Chen Shi is of course not in a hurry, after all, it's for Farong, so she is in a hurry. Duolongchi is not in a hurry either, because he just wants to make sure that Duolong Messia can be resurrected, and he is not in a hurry. Then I will take these away, don't regret it, Daigo said, holding the stone. Take it away, take it away. Put it away quickly, it will be bad if that cadre finds out, we are close here. Go out first and let the search officer deal with it directly. Anyway, we have the things in hand, let's run away quickly. Daigo was shocked and quickly put the stones away, and the two prepared to leave here. On the way, Duolongchi looked at a big rock with his eyes fixed on it. Chen Shi realized something was wrong and released the giant swamp monster, Lady Waji and the others. Who is there? Come out. Daigo also released his Pokémon at the same time. But after a while, there was still no movement behind the rock. You're not coming out yet. Duolongchi, Dragon Wave. Chia. Just as Duolongchi was about to use Dragon Wave, a voice sounded from behind the big rock. Don't do it, I have no ill intentions. Chen Shi narrowed his eyes, why are you hiding if I have no ill intentions? After the words fell, a young man slowly walked out from behind the boulder. He had a darker complexion, wore an ancient robe, and had a hemp rope tied around his waist. Friend, I really have no ill intentions. Looking at the man dressed like an ancient man and appearing at Meteor Falls again, Chen Shi had another guess in his mind. Are you a meteorite? The man was obviously stunned for a moment, then he nodded in acknowledgement. The Meteor people had long since stopped sealing off their village and had contact with some people from the outside world. It was normal for someone to know about the existence of the Meteor people. Daigo also reacted. He had heard from his father that the Meteor people had always lived in Meteor Falls and believed in the legendary dragon god. However, it had always been Genji Tenno who had been in contact with them. He did not expect to meet one himself today. Chen Shi thought for a while and asked, did you lose 5 baby dragons? The man got excited all of a sudden, friend, do you know where our lost dragon cubs are? If you are willing to tell me, we will definitely reward you handsomely. The Meteor people lost 5 baby dragons by accident. Now the village has been in turmoil, and a large number of people have been sent out to search for them. Ida is one of them. During the search, Ida met 2 strangers. She originally wanted to observe in the dark to see if the loss of the baby dragon had anything to do with these 2 people. Unexpectedly, the Pokémon of one of them was so sharp that it directly saw through her hiding place. Helpless, Ada had to show that she had no ill intentions. Who would have thought that the man would immediately recognize her as a meteorite? From what he said, there was news about the lost baby dragon. This made Ada very excited. The village had sent so many people to search for so many days, but there was no news. She didn't expect to have an unexpected harvest today. Chen Shi said directly, I know where that baby dragon is, and I can even take you there. But that person is very powerful, with 3 quasi-king Pokémon and many subordinates. Can you deal with him? Ida said confidently. Friend, don't worry, I am a quasi-king dragon trainer, I can deal with the person you mentioned. Take me there, please. Chen Shi whispered. Daigo, what do you think? Do you want to take him there? Daigo said directly. I think we can go, anyway, it's not a big deal, and we can do a favor for the Meteor people. Chen Shi nodded slightly, and immediately said to Ida, then you come with us. You deal with the quasi-king, if there are others, you can leave them to us. No problem. Ida agreed immediately. In this way, the 3 of them ran directly to the lava team's base. That's it. In front of the lava team's base, Chen Shi spoke softly. Ida's eyes fixed, and she walked in swaggeringly. Seeing this meteorite so confident, Chen Shi and Daigo looked at each other and followed behind. Soon, the 3 of them broke into the lava team's base. Huoshu was resting, but when he heard the noise, he thought it was his men coming back. But when he opened his eyes, he found that they were 3 strangers. He was furious. Who are you? How dare you break into our lava team's base? Are you looking for death? The reason why Huoshu dared to confront them was because these three people were very young. Only the leader looked to be in his early 20s, and the two behind him were probably only 16 or 17 years old. Such a person must not be a powerful existence, so Huoshu would not be afraid of him. It's you who stole our 5 dragon cubs. Quote, faced with Ada's questioning, Huoshu's face changed, and he immediately released his 6 Pokémon. I don't know what you are talking about. Since you dare to break into our magma team's territory, then prepare to die. Soon, the figures of 6 Pokémon appeared in the cave. Chen Shi's mind moved, and the data of these 6 Pokémon appeared in his eyes. The early stage of the Quasi-King Cold Turtle, Wolfhound, and Fire Camel. The top of the gym, Zubat, Ghastly, and Snake. All of them, come on, Cold Turtle used Jet Flame. Ada didn't waste words, took out 3 Pokeballs from her arms and opened them. 3-headed dragon, Tanabata Bluebird, Desert Dragonfly, use Dragon Wave with all your strength. Quote. Chen Shi looked up and saw that this guy was not bragging. 3-headed dragon in the late stage of Quasi-King, Shishi Bluebird in the middle stage of Quasi-King, and Desert Dragonfly. They are quite capable. In the field, the 3-headed dragon roared. Roar. As soon as Ada's voice fell, the 3 Pokémon used the Dragon Wave with all their strength. 3 energy waves with the phantom of a giant dragon directly overwhelmed the opponent's moves and hit the 3 top Pokémon in the gym. The 3 Pokémon lost their combat ability and lay on the ground, not knowing whether they were dead or alive. Cold Turtle Heat Wind. Big Wolfhound Ram. Charmer uses Earthquake. Ada sneered, don't you know that Earthquake can't hit Pokémon in the air? Let's do it again, full strength Dragon Wave. Quote, Chen Shi behind was shocked. This kid used the Earthquake to try to run away, and the Wolfhound used the Ram to buy time for this kid. This is in a cave. Once an earthquake goes down, it will definitely collapse. Duolongchi, use Surprise Attack on the Fire Camel, quickly. Daigo also thought of this, and he immediately released the giant gold monster. Megalodon, use Telekinesis to stop the Fire Camel. Duolongchi was wrapped in evil energy and directly rammed into the Fire Camel, and then the giant gold monster's telekinesis also caught the Fire Camel. This earthquake was finally not released. Duolongchi, Sneak Attack. Duolongchi didn't hesitate and plunged into the different space. You are looking for death. Huoshu saw that his plan failed and shouted angrily. 3-headed evil dragon, use the destruction of death light. Shishi Blue Bird, use the divine bird to attack, and the desert dragonfly continues to use the dragon wave. Quote. Roar. The 3-headed dragon's destructive death light overwhelmed the big character explosion, and the cold turtle lost its combat ability with one blow. The fire-breathing camel also fell under the ultimate move of the Shishi Bluebird. The big wolfhound was miserable. It was hit by a dragon wave from the desert dragonfly at close range, and then it was hit by a dragon claw. Now it is lying in the pit. As for the fire tree, it has fainted next to Chen Shi. After Duolongchi entered the different space, he did not attack or come back, but directly stole the butt of the fire tree. Look, he was knocked unconscious and brought back. Daigo excitedly, he took his space backpack and poured everything out. The two of them rummaged around for a while, but soon lost interest. I thought there were some stones or precious things. But there were only some daily supplies and some resources needed by fire Pokémon. However, 5 Pokeballs were found from the fire tree. After opening it, 5 baby dragons appeared in front of them. They had blue bodies and looked like dinosaurs, with 2 teeth exposed, and their lower jaws and lower abdomens were yellow. They looked pretty cute. Baby dragon, Ada shouted excitedly. The baby dragon seemed to see a familiar figure and hurried to Ada's side. Bay. All of a sudden, in this cave that was destroyed to pieces, the baby dragon's aggrieved voice kept ringing. Chen Shi also glanced over the talents of these little guys are 3 quasi-kings and 2 kings. It can only be said that they are worthy of being quasi-gods from the people of Meteor, and their talents are quite excellent. However, Chen Shi and Daigo were not interested in the baby dragon, and just took a second look. After a long while, Ada finally calmed the baby dragon down, and he walked in front of the two. I really thank you two very much this time. If you are not in a hurry to leave, you can come to our village as a guest. Ada just figured out the purpose of the earthquake, and he was sincerely grateful to the two people in front of him. If it weren't for them, he wouldn't be able to find the lost baby dragon, and even if he found it, he almost escaped. So Ada wanted to invite them to the village as guests. If the grandmother knew, she would not refuse. Chen Shi asked Daigo with his eyes, and the latter nodded slightly. Okay, let's go and have a look. However, how do you plan to deal with this person? He is also a criminal outside us. Ida looked at Huoshu with disgust, thought for 2 seconds and said, I want to take him back to the village and let the grandmother decide. Do you think this is okay? Chen Shi said. Then how do you usually deal with such people? Usually, they are killed directly, or they stay in the village forever to atone for their sins. Chen Shi was happy. He could accept either of the two. Okay, I will bother you next. Ida showed a happy look on her face. After taking back the baby dragon, she took the two to the deepest part of Meteor Falls. On the way, the three chatted from time to time, followed by a three-headed evil dragon, holding a fire tree in his claws. Ida asked what life was like outside, and Chen Shi and the others were also curious about the life of the Meteor people. Are you believing in the dragon god? Ida looked at Chen Shi in surprise. How did you know? Our village does believe in the dragon god. Daigo was also very curious about this. He had never heard of any dragon god. Is the dragon god you believe in still alive? Is it a Pokémon or something else? Ida thought about it, and it didn't involve any secrets, so he replied, strictly speaking, the dragon god is a Pokémon. In the legend of our village, the dragon god has lived in the ozone layer for a long time. According to the legend, the dragon god came thousands of years ago and calmed a huge disaster with one of our ancestors. These are legends passed down by word of mouth in the village, and Ida can be said to have heard them since childhood. Daigo also understood a little bit. The dragon god believed by the people of Meteor should be a legendary Pokémon. But what kind of disaster could make a legendary Pokémon come out to stop it? Daigo asked directly. However, Ada shook her head and said, there are not many records left in our village. If you want to know this, you may have to ask Grandma. Chen Shi suddenly laughed and said, it is difficult to consider things that happened thousands of years ago. Even if it can be passed down, some things may be missing, resulting in incomplete records. Ada agreed with this statement very much. You are right, Grandma also said that many of our records have been lost. No one can say for sure what happened thousands of years ago. Chen Shi certainly knew what it was. Wasn't it a fight between Groudon and Kyogre? Apart from these two, the only one who could attract Rayquaza to take action was Deoxys. To be honest, Chen Shi really thought that Rayquaza was very strong. Especially the black shining Rayquaza that appeared in the animation. Can you believe it was a direct 1vs6? In the end, it even played Groudon's famous scene, which ruined Groudon's reputation and gave him the title of being unable to fly. Then, Ada led the two of them through many twists and turns and came to a canyon. After passing through the canyon, a paradise appeared in front of the three people. Here you can see a small village in the distance, and some houses are still emitting thick smoke, probably because they are cooking. Above the sky, various dragon-type Pokémon kept flying, and they were in groups. Dragonite, Tyranitar, three-headed dragon, land shark, desert dragonfly, Tanabata bluebird, and other dragon-type Pokémon. Even Daigo, a big dog owner, was a little shocked. The impact brought by this scene was really not small. After all, even the arrogant Zifuchi family only controlled the Metagross tribe. But what is in front of us? There are 4 quasi-god tribes. Chen Shi sighed, this is like a paradise. This is our village, but you need to ride a flying Pokémon to get there. You can ride my Tanabata bluebird and desert dragonfly. As she spoke, Ada released the other 2 Pokémon. The two of them had no problem. Chen Shi jumped on the back of Tanabata bluebird, while Daigo chose another desert dragonfly. After that, Ada rode on the 3-headed dragon and took the lead to fly to the village over there. At the entrance of the village, as soon as Ada came down, 7 or 8 children wanted to gather around, but when they saw 2 strangers, they suddenly retreated. They looked at the 2 strange faces curiously, but they didn't dare to come forward. Ada smiled and said, thanks to the help of these 2 friends, I found all 5 dragon cubs. I invited them to visit the village. You don't have to be afraid. At this time, a girl about the same age as Chenxi and Daigo came over. Ada, the grandmother asked you to invite the guests to her place, and the grandmother will personally entertain them. Ada was obviously stunned for a moment, and quickly said, okay, Shijana, I will take the guests there now. Chenxi was interested when he heard the name, and his eyes stayed on Shijana for a while. Her skin color was slightly dark, she was wearing an ancient robe, a small cape, and short hair, and she looked very energetic and confident. This is the successor of the Meteor people, Shijana. Later, this girl went undercover in the lava team, and she was very brave. Ada turned around and said, since the grandmother invited you, let the grandmother entertain you personally. Just follow me. The two of them were naturally inseparable. As the saying goes, this is someone else's territory anyway, so whatever they say is what it is. Besides, the two of them could hear that this old lady should be the one with the highest status here. Since someone personally entertained them, there was no reason for them to refuse. Afterwards, Ada and Shijana led the way in front, and Chenxi and Daigo followed behind. They found that life here was not particularly primitive, and many villagers were using modern tools. However, the villagers here, Pokémon are basically dragon type, from mini dragons to sub-dragon species such as blue birds and giant crocodile ants. It can be said that they are very arrogant. Not long after, the four of them came to a lonely cabin. Why do you say it is lonely? Because there is no building around it, only a cabin in front of it. And it doesn't look big, at most there is a living room and a bedroom inside. This is where the grandmother lives, Ada said, and knocked on the door. Grandmother, I'm bringing guests. After a while, an old voice came from inside. Then please come in, guests. Ada stepped aside, and Shijana opened the door of the wooden house and made a gesture of invitation to the two. The two walked into the wooden house one after the other, and Shijana gently closed the door behind them. After entering the house, it was exactly as Chenxi expected. There was only one living room, and there was another door over there, which should be the bedroom. There was a wooden table in the middle of the living room, surrounded by 4 stools. On one of the stools, sat an old and unbelievably old grandmother. It made people feel that she would fall down if the wind blew. Please sit down, guests. I am old and my legs are not convenient, so I won't get up to greet you. Please forgive me. The two hurriedly said no, and then sat at the table. Shijana also sat on another stool. The old woman slowly poured a cup of tea for the 3 people. The conditions here are not good, please don't blame us. Chenxi's mouth twitched slightly, and said, you are already very good, we are not the kind of people who care about those things. Grandma, don't say that. The old man nodded slightly and said, I heard that the 5 lost dragon cubs were found with the help of the 2 of you. I really trouble you. Hearing this, Chenxi couldn't help but have a headache. Why did this old man always say polite words? And we just came, and Ada has been with us all the time. How did you know? It was still Dao who said, it's all a piece of cake. The dragon thief is not a good person outside us. He will naturally help when he sees it. The old man sighed faintly, this time I invited the 2 guests to come because I want to ask you for help. Chenxi said, tell me, if we can do it, it's no problem to help. Although Chenxi agreed, he couldn't help but complain in his heart. We just helped you, and you still want us to help. But I want to hear what you have to say. Anyway, it is not up to me to decide whether this can be done or not. The old woman was silent for 2 seconds and then said, do you know about the disaster 1,000 years ago? Hearing this, Chenxi and Daigo were shocked. A disaster 1,000 years ago. I heard from Ada. 1,000 years ago, a terrible disaster occurred, and it was your ancestors and the dragon god who finally stopped it. Chen pretended to be puzzled and wanted to see what the old woman could say. How could they help? Dao also nodded in agreement, but unlike Chenxi, Daiwu really didn't know what happened 1,000 years ago. The old woman was silent for a while, as if she was organizing her words. According to the records left by our ancestors, 1,000 years ago, a terrifying beast walked out from the depths of the earth. Wherever it passed, lava was everywhere and life was destroyed. At the same time, a hegemon appeared in the ocean. As soon as it appeared, it set off a tsunami hundreds of feet high. The 2 terrifying beasts seemed to be born in opposition, and a terrible war broke out the moment they met. Where they fought, the seawater evaporated, the earth was torn apart, and too many lives were affected and died in that disaster. Finally, one of our ancestors stood up and asked the legendary dragon god to come out to stop this disaster. Originally, Chen Shi wanted to hear what happened next, but found that the old woman had no further news. No, that's it. I thought you could say something. Isn't it just a fight between a flying fish and a fathead fish, and then your ancestors invited a flying green caterpillar? This is not much different from what I know. Daigo listened with great interest, but there was always an inexplicable sense of familiarity, as if he had heard it somewhere before. This sounds like a battle between legendary Pokémon. But after thinking for a long time, he still couldn't figure it out, so Daigo stopped thinking about it and looked at the old lady in confusion. Then what does your finding have to do with this disaster? The old lady nodded slightly. 1,000 years ago, our ancestors once left a prophecy. 1,000 years later, the disaster will come again. At this time, a hero will appear to reawaken the dragon god and stop the disaster from spreading. Chen Shi was speechless. Your ancestor predicted it quite accurately. 1,000 years later, the three idiots of Hoenn did fight again, nothing wrong. Then do you want us to find that hero? Chen Shi asked. He didn't think he was that hero, nor did he want to be a hero. Let others do this task of summoning the dragon. Daigo was worried about the disaster in the prophecy. Isn't it now after 1,000 years? In other words, the disaster that happened 1,000 years ago will happen again. This is not good news. The old lady looked at Chen Shi with a strange look. Young man, why don't you think this hero is you? As soon as these words came out, Chen Shi was stunned, and Daigo's eyes gradually became strange. You kid, it turns out that you are still hiding the identity of a hero. Even Shijiana, who was standing next to him, looked at Chen Shi with an incredible look on her face. She originally thought that the old lady just wanted to thank these two people in person. After all, they helped to find 5 dragon cubs. But she didn't expect that after coming in, the old lady talked about things that happened 1,000 years ago. Now she is even more blunt, saying that the boy in front of her is the hero of the future. How can she not be surprised? Chen Shi smiled awkwardly. Old lady, I think you must have made a mistake. I am just an ordinary person, not a hero. If you have to say a hero, the one next to me is more like a hero. As he said, Chen Shi pulled Daigo, who was watching the show, over and said seriously. This man is not only strong, but also rich. Most importantly, he has a heart of justice. If he is not a hero, who is? Daigo was speechless and struggled to break free from Chen Shi's hand. The old lady shook her head slowly. I feel a power similar to that of the dragon god in you. That is the key to the dragon god's ability to prevent disasters. Chen Shi was stunned, thought about it carefully, and suddenly became alert. Could this old lady be talking about super evolution? The only similarity between him and Rayquaza is super evolution. Unlike Groudon and Kyogre's primitive regression, Rayquaza is a super evolution. But how did you feel this? Do you have to be so exaggerated? Daigo glanced at him lightly. It seems that this kid has a lot of secrets. But he didn't take it to heart. After all, who doesn't have some secrets in the world? After a while, Chen Shi slowly spoke. This power is not only possessed by me, there are other people in the world who also possess this power. Why must it be me? It's not that no one has mastered super evolution now. As mentioned before, Corny in the Kalos region, and Kokobuyu also mastered super evolution. And can't Rayquaza super evolve on its own? Why does it have to be someone who masters super evolution to summon it? The old woman looked at Chen Shi with a meaningful look. But you are the only one who came here and happened to save our 5 dragon cubs. This is all too coincidental, isn't it? As soon as these words came out, Chen Shi was silent. You make a lot of sense. I was speechless to refute. Is it too late for me to leave now? Daigo looked strange, looking at his friends around him with some gloating. I think what the old woman said is right, maybe all this is destined. Old Chen, you are destined to be the hero. A vein popped up on Chen Shi's forehead. He really didn't want to get involved in the affairs of the 3 fools of Hoenn. Let others do the task of summoning the dragon, such as the one next to him. Chen Shi suddenly became serious. Old lady, this person next to me can also master this power. I can teach him, let him be a hero. In order not to get involved in this matter, Chen Shi also risked his life. Anyway, he didn't say when to teach. And now the magma team and the ocean team have just emerged, there is still time. Mega evolution always needs to be told to Daigo, it doesn't matter. This time, not only Daigo was confused, but even the old lady and Shijiana were a little confused. Are you so unwilling to be this hero? And can this power be taught? We also want to learn. Daigo quickly pulled Chen Shi and whispered. What are you doing? What kind of power is this? Can it be taught? Don't ask, I'll tell you later. I can't tell you now. Seeing his friend say this, Daigo had to give up asking, but he still wanted to persuade him. If the disaster really came, at least old Chen could summon that dragon to stop it, right? But at this time, the old lady spoke up, and she seemed to see the reluctance of the young man in front of her. If you can teach him, it would be great. One more person means one more hope. Of course, I won't let you help for nothing. You can enter our treasure house and each of you pick 2 things to go. The old man did not ask how to master that kind of power, but talked about entering the treasure house to pick items. Chen Shi's eyes lit up, this is good. Picking treasures, he likes it the most. Daigo seemed much calmer. As the heir of the Zifuchi family, what treasures had he not seen? He had seen all the legendary resources. But when Shirjana stood up, opened another door of the wooden house, and took them into the cellar below, Daigo could not hold back. He did not look at the resources, but stared at several boxes of stones. These were picked up by the Meteor people, either because of their unique and beautiful shapes or because they contained special energy. So they were collected by the Meteor people in the basement. And Chen Shi was dazzled by the sight. There were all kinds of precious medicinal materials, top evolution stones, attribute gems, all of them. Even the champion-level dragon Pokémon, Chen Shi saw several pieces of reverse scales left behind. It was a pity that most of these resources were used by dragon Pokémon, so Chen Shi only took a look at those reverse scales. Then he turned over the stones like Daigo. Shirjana on the side was speechless. In the village, only those who make great contributions can enter here. I didn't expect that these 2 people were not interested in those resources. Instead, they were interested in these stones. Are all people outside like this? In fact, what she didn't know was that the 2 of them had extraordinary backgrounds outside. One was the heir of the Zifuchi family, and the other's grandparents were both top breeders. They really don't lack resources, unless they are legendary resources. Like Giratina's reverse scale. But there are obviously no resources of this level here. So those resources are not as attractive to the 2 as these stones. One is because of simple love, and the other is to find Mega Evolution stones. Don't say, the accumulation of Meteor people for so many years is really not a joke. There are more than 20 Mega Evolution stones and 8 key stones. Most of them are dragon Pokémon, such as Dragonite, Garchomp, and Tanabata Bluebird. These Pokémon should be found and placed here. But there are still many other Mega Evolution stones. For example, the Metagross Mega Evolution stone that Chen Shi had been thinking about was now in his hand. Chen Shi was excited. It was really easy to get it. He didn't expect that the Metagross Mega Evolution stone could be found here. Now he has collected all the Mega Evolution stones for all the Pokémon that can be Mega Evolved. He doesn't have to worry about it anymore. Then, Chen Shi picked out a piece of the reverse scale of the Champion Peak Tyranitar. Chen Shi planned to take it back and give it to his grandfather's Tyranitar to see if he could use this reverse scale to break through the champion level. Once Tyranitar breaks through, the safety of the family farm will be improved, and it is estimated that no one will dare to covet Chen Shi's family farm. When the 2 came out of the basement, the grandmother was a little silent when she saw what the 2 had chosen. Forget the reverse scale. I let them in, so I'm not afraid that they will pick precious things. But I didn't expect that they picked 3 useless stones for the other 3 things. This made the old lady a little confused. But what she didn't know was that the power she had been thinking about was on that stone. Afterwards, the old woman whispered, "Have you really decided to take these? Don't you want to exchange them?" "No, ×2. The 2 replied in unison. The old woman nodded slightly. Everyone has their own ideas. Since the 2 like it, she will not persuade them anymore. Afterwards, she said solemnly, "If the disaster from 1,000 years ago comes again, please come back here. You will be rewarded handsomely at that time. The last two words were emphasized, and the two understood what the old woman meant. Today's is just an appetizer, or a deposit. If the two come to help in the future when a disaster occurs, they will be given real good things. No problem. Chen Shi and Daigo both agreed. After thinking it through, Chen Shi did not resist. As long as there were good things, he could go through mountains of swords and seas of fire for a while. Anyway, Daigo was with him, so he was not in a hurry. Then old lady, we will leave now. Sorry for disturbing you. The old lady smiled on her wrinkled face. You are welcome to visit us often in the future. The two nodded and left behind Ada at the door. Old lady, do you really think these two people are the ones in the prophecy? Why don't I feel like they are? Besides, why don't you ask them how to master the power similar to that of Lord Dragon God? As long as we can learn it, maybe we don't need help from outsiders. After they left, Shijiana hurriedly asked the old man in front of her in a low voice. She really didn't understand. Of these two people, only the silver-haired boy looked more serious. As for the other one, he looked very unreliable. The grandmother glanced at Shijiana indifferently. Child, don't judge people by appearance. Sometimes people's external performance can be deceiving. Perhaps the one you think is unreliable is the most reliable. Shijiana remembered Chen Shi's appearance and couldn't help asking in her heart. Is this person really like the grandmother said? Then, the old man continued. And what you said, why don't you ask the boy how to master that power? But have you ever thought about why people give you such an important thing? Don't ask some things, otherwise it will only make the originally friendly relationship worse. Shijiana opened her mouth, as if she wanted to say something, but she didn't say anything. The grandmother was right. There was no reason for people to give us such an important thing. Saying it out would only lead to embarrassment for both parties. As for the robbery, Shijiana didn't think that the other party helped the village find 5 dragon cubs and was a benefactor of the village. The dragon trainers of the Meteor clan have always done things uprightly. They would never do such a thing of repaying kindness with enmity. Girl, you still have a lot to learn. Get ready, you should go out too, don't stay in the village all the time. Shijiana was shocked, and then nodded heavily. I understand, Grandma. Where are we going next? Daigo stood at the exit of Meteor Falls and asked his friend beside him. Let's go to Fen Town. It's evening now, let's go find a place to stay, go to the hot springs tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow is the King of Kings show. Daigo also thought it made sense. He had heard that the hot springs in Fen Town were comfortable. I didn't try it properly when I came to challenge the gym last time, so I must go to the hot springs this time. After that, Daigo released the armored bird and flew the two of them directly to Fen Town. Outside Fen Town, the two got off the back of the armored bird. Just as they were about to enter the town, a miserable cry suddenly sounded. Brother Chen Shi. The two turned around and saw a disheveled girl running over. She was crying while running, which made the listener cry. Chen Shi looked at the familiar 2 big red flowers and couldn't help laughing out loud. PFF'd, ha 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 ha, Farong, how did you get into this mess? What happened to you? Did you find a part-time begging job? Farong, who had just run over, was very aggrieved, tears kept falling, and her little hands kept wiping them. She looked pitiful. Brother Chen Shi, I met a liar. Several people cheated me of my money and beat me up. I haven't eaten for 2 days. As soon as he said this, Dao turned his head sharply, trying to hold back his smile, and his handsome face turned red. He remembered, isn't this the girl that Chen Shi asked him to cheat? I didn't expect the people below to be so efficient, and they made the little girl not eat for 2 days. Chen Shi's face froze, and suddenly he remembered that it seemed that he asked Dao to arrange this. I didn't remember it just now. Ahem, what, you must be starving, let's go inside and eat something. Yeah, thank you, Brother Chen Shi. Dao couldn't help but laugh, but he met Chen Shi's eyes, and he forced himself to hold back his laughter and looked around. This little girl is also miserable. If you knew that you became like this, it was all arranged by your brother Chen Shi, would you still thank him? Chen Shi coughed awkwardly, then took Farong to find the best hotel here, asked for a private room, and ordered a large table of dishes. Seeing Farong wolfing down the food, Chen Shi actually felt a little guilty. He shook his head quickly. This idea was not okay. I did this for her good. This was for her good. After that, Farong ate half full, and complained to Chen Shi, telling him how she met a liar and how she was deceived. How hard it was during this period of time and so on. The more Chen Shi listened, the more embarrassed he became, and he kept picking up dishes for the little girl. There was also a trembling Daigo on the side, trying not to laugh. Chen Shi leaned close to his ear and whispered, "Don't forget, it was your people who made them like this, so you were also an accomplice." Daigo's face froze, and what he said seemed to be right. But he reacted immediately, "Didn't you ask me to arrange it? I was instructed by you. Come on, we are both grasshoppers in the same boat, no one should say anything about each other." This made Daigo very angry. How could we be grasshoppers on the same rope? Didn't you ask me to help you cheat the girl? So I became an accomplice. At this time, Farong asked curiously, "Brother Chen Shi, who is this? What are you talking about?" The two separated immediately, and Chen Shi introduced Farong. "This is the heir of the Zifuchi family, Zifuchi Daigo, you can just call him Daigo." Turning around and pretending to introduce Farong to Daigo. "This girl came from the Sending God volcano. She specializes in ghosts. You can just call her Farong." "Hello, Miss Farong, nice to meet you." Daigo stood up politely and greeted him. "Oh." Farong was stunned for a moment, and hurriedly stood up and bowed to Daigo at a 90-degree angle. "Hello, Brother Daigo, I'm glad to meet you too." Daigo's eyes twitched slightly. This girl is really too naive. It made me feel a little guilty. I should not have listened to Chen Shi earlier. You have the heart to lie to such a cute girl like this. You are really a piece of shit. Hurry up, sit down and eat. The food is cold. Chen Shi pushed the two people down and directly asked them to eat quickly. Suddenly, Chen Shi thought of something, opened his backpack, took out a fossil, and placed it in front of Farong. "Here, this is for you." Farong originally thought there was a small gift, and hurriedly looked up, but found it was a broken stone, and immediately lost interest. "I don't like stones, why do I need this?" Chen Shi glanced at her unhappily. "This is a fossil of Doran Messiah, I dug it out from Meteor Falls." "Didn't you say you wanted a Doran? You can take this fossil and ask Daigo to help you revive it." "I've already told him." Farong scratched her head and asked in confusion, "Can fossils be resurrected? Aren't they all dead?" Daigo understood as soon as he heard it. This girl had never known about the resurrection of fossils before, and it seemed that she didn't believe it. So he had to explain, "Fossils can be resurrected. Our Devon company has resurrected a fossil pterosaur a few days ago. Your fossil looks very complete, so there should be no problem." Hearing this, Farong quickly took the fossil and held it in her hands, with surprise in her eyes. She really likes Doran with dragon and ghost attributes, but it's a pity that this kind of elf seems to be very rare and precious. In the Galar region, Dragonite is even rated as a quasi-god Pokémon. She had no hope at first, but she didn't expect that Brother Chen Shi would give her such a great gift today. When she thought that she also had a Dragonite, Farong couldn't help laughing at the fossil. Little Dragonite, he he he. Is this child stupid?" Chen Shi thought speechlessly. Then he pushed Farong, "Don't laugh there, hurry up and eat. The converter for resurrecting fossil elves is still under repair, and you have to wait for a while to revive. Remember to keep this fossil well. If you lose it, I will beat you." Farong nodded like a chicken pecking at rice. "By the way, why are you here? I heard that there is a superstar show here, so I came." Farong shook her little head, and the whole person was very happy, as if she had forgotten the tragic experience of the past few days. "Then do you have money to buy a ticket?" "Ah, do I need to buy a ticket?" Farong was confused. "No one told me this. They told me there was a superstar show here, but no one told me I needed to buy a ticket." The next morning, in the largest hot spring pool in Fen Town, Chen Shi, Daigo, and Farong took a group of Pokémon and soaked in it comfortably. "It's so comfortable, Chia, Choco." Other Pokémon cried out in comfort, leaning aside with a look of enjoyment on their faces. "This hot spring is really good, but it's a pity that I left in a hurry last time and didn't have a good experience." On the other side, Daigo said regretfully, "It's not too late to experience it now. Let's soak in it today and enjoy it." Choco, Pokémon on the side was amazed, and said, I'll forgive you for keeping me in the Pokeball for so long this time. Don't do this next time. Suddenly, Daigo looked at Chen-Shi in confusion. What was the power that the old lady in the village was talking about? Didn't you say you would teach me? Then teach me now. The two of them are now very familiar with each other, so Daigo is no longer polite. He asked directly. Chen-Shi sighed, I won't teach you now, I will teach you later. He glared at Daigo unhappily, as if he was giving you a bargain. This thing is too complicated, it can't be exposed now, let's talk about it when we are stronger later. In fact, it's okay to tell Daigo about super evolution now. Chen-Shi believes in his character. If he asked Daigo not to tell anyone, this kid would definitely not even tell Mu-Jin. But it's better to be safe than sorry. Let's keep this secret for a while. However, after passing the Meteor waterfall, Chen-Shi felt that Daigo might be more suitable for collecting super stones. Because everyone knows that Daigo is an avid stone lover, and it won't arouse suspicion for him to collect those strange stones. It's not like now, grandparents collect a stone and hide it, for fear that others will find out their identity. But if Chen-Shi tells Daigo about the super evolution directly, he is worried about being exposed, so it is better to let Daigo pay attention to the super evolution stone. I believe Daigo will understand it in the future. On the other hand, Daigo saw that his friend planned to keep it secret, and he didn't plan to ask about it. Anyway, didn't he say that he would teach him in the future? There is still trust between friends. But Daigo saw Chen-Shi asked him seriously next, do you still remember the stone that Boscadora saw? Daigo immediately remembered the silver stone mixed with dark orange. I remember, what happened? I remember I dug up a similar piece the next day, and you suddenly asked me to subdue a big-mouthed baby. Chen-Shi stared at Daigo's eyes. Daigo, that stone is very important and precious, you can collect more secretly. But remember to keep it secret, don't tell anyone else. And it's best to collect it secretly, not openly. Seeing his friend so serious, Daigo also realized that the stone might not be as simple as he thought. After thinking about it carefully, Daigo had an incredible idea in his mind. He asked in a trembling voice, that stone, is it related to the power of the dragon god to prevent disasters? That's why the old woman thinks you are the next hero, because you also have this power. Daigo couldn't believe his guess, but this was the only way to explain it. Why did Chen-Shi, who obviously didn't like stones, go with him to Meteor Falls to dig stones? And he only cared about one kind of stone. In the basement of the Meteor people, Chen-Shi only picked a reverse scale, and picked another stone that was similar to the previous one. You should know that Chen-Shi's initial Pokémon was Duolongchi, a dragon-type Pokémon. There are so many dragon-type resources in it, why would he not pick a stone that looks useless? He didn't believe that a 14-year-old intermediate breeder genius was a fool. This only shows that the stone is not simple. It is very likely related to the key power that the dragon god used to prevent disasters thousands of years ago. But it was this speculation that made Daigo a little unbelievable. Dragon god, even if Daigo has never seen it, he knows that this is a legendary Pokémon. What kind of power can make this kind of Pokémon so concerned, and even become the necessary key to prevent disasters? In Daigo's expectant eyes, Chen-Shi nodded slightly and acknowledged his words. That's why I said it's too important and precious. Remember to keep it secret and don't tell anyone else. Now is not the time to show this power. Because we can't keep it. Dao's expression was solemn and he nodded slightly. He naturally understood this truth. A man is innocent but guilty of possessing a treasure. Sometimes if you have too much, you will lose more. Especially in this world where power is supreme. Then he asked excitedly, is the power really that strong? Chen-Shi said, it is indeed very strong. It is an all-round change. It not only enhances the level, but also the self. It is not an exaggeration to say that it is a change from the inside out, but this power can only be used temporarily and will not last too long. It is still no problem to support a battle. Enough. Daigo was very excited. He understood it after just a simple listen. This power is indeed very strong, but it can only be used temporarily. However, Daigo is not greedy. He knows that he has to pay as much as he wants to get. It is enough to support a battle. At this time, Chen-Shi looked at Daigo with a little meaning, I still think that big mouth baby is pretty good. Daigo also understood that his friend had been reminding him all the time, but he just didn't react. I'm afraid Big Mouth Baby is not as simple as he thought. Then Daigo smiled and nodded, I think it's good too. I'll go back and look for a suitable Big Mouth Baby. The two smiled at each other, and everything was said without words. But Farong on the other side suddenly asked, Brother Chen-shi, should I also subdue a Big Mouth Baby? The two then realized that there was another person here. This girl has been listening from the beginning to now, and the two have actually forgotten her. Chen-shi's mouth twitched slightly, you don't need it, don't you have a haunter? Just train it well. Oh. Farong nodded thoughtfully. Looking at this girl like this, Chen-shi shook his head helplessly. I hope she can listen to it. Just as the three were enjoying themselves, a waiter came over. Hello, guests. There is a lady outside who says she is your friend. She wants to see you. Can you please let her in? Because this huge hot spring pool has been reserved by the wealthy Daigo, others naturally cannot come in. Now someone claims to be their friend, and the waiter came to ask. Chen-shi looked at Daigo in confusion, did you find a friend to come? Daigo was also a little confused. He only had one friend, Chen-shi, so where did other friends come from? And a lady. However, when facing outsiders, Daigo was still very polite and asked. Did she say what her name was? The waiter said, the lady said her name was Sirona. As soon as this was said, Chen-shi was startled and quickly said to the waiter, it is indeed my friend. Let her in. Okay, the waiter said and retreated. On the side, Duolongchi, Lady Waji Yi-ibu, and Pakigu all looked at Chen-shi with a puzzled look. As for Sirona, they naturally knew her. After all, they had traveled together for such a long time. They knew that their trainer had an ambiguous relationship with Sirona. Chen-shi ignored these people and said to Daigo, it's a friend from Sinnoh. I remember mentioning her to you once. She also has the title of Battle Goddess. You should have heard of her. Battle Goddess. Daigo looked at his friend teasingly, his tone lengthened. Just now, he saw the eyes of Duolongchi and the others. How could he not understand the situation? Chen-shi was a little embarrassed by being looked at, friends, all friends. Ahem, it should be okay to come in and get to know each other. After all, this is the hot spring that Daigo has reserved, so Chen-shi still asked. Daigo obviously doesn't care about this. For him who has few friends, it's good to get to know each other. He has figured it out. Only people like them can get together and get along well. So Daigo will not object to Shirona's arrival. Soon, the waiter led a blonde beauty in a bathrobe holding a Pokémon in her arms. Seeing Sirona dressed like this, Chen-shi was stunned for a moment and quickly greeted her, Miss Sirona, long time no see. Come and try the hot springs here, they are really good. Sirona narrowed her eyes when she saw Chen-shi, and then walked into the hot spring pool. Why call me Miss Sirona? It's too polite. It seems that we are so unfamiliar. Call me a person with severe choice difficulty. As soon as these words came out, Duolongchi and the others looked at Chen-shi with a gloating look on their faces. Chen-shi secretly said that it was not good, and the person who came was not friendly, but he smiled on his face. What are you talking about? Why would I call you such a name? It's nonsense, it's all nonsense. Really, Sirona looked at Chen-shi with a smile. Then explain to me, what's the matter with the indecisiveness on the researcher forum? This. Chen-shi scratched his head, and his eyes lit up when he saw the Togepi in Shirona's arms. This little guy has hatched, and looks healthy. Sirona snorted coldly and rolled her eyes at Chen-shi. Sirona came to Hoenn as early as the day Chen-shi went out, but when she found Chen's farm, the two old people told her that Chen-shi had gone out to watch the King of Kings show. She immediately found Fen Town, just to find Chen, but she searched for 2 days in Fen Town and didn't find a single ghost. Just this morning, Lucario suddenly said that he smelled Chen-shi's scent, and Sirona found this place. Pakigu, look, that's your daughter. The little guy has hatched, you can rest assured. Pakigu, who was originally watching the show, was stunned, and then looked at the Togepi in Shirona's arms with disbelief. Cha, Chaki, Bu, Bui, Yebo and the others were also shocked. They looked at Pakigu and then at Pokpi. It's the same as Pakigu when he was a child. Chia. Doranchi suddenly felt a little melancholy. He didn't expect that I would become an uncle when I was only 1 year old. I didn't prepare for this, you say. Shaky. Pokigu reacted, flew up and hit Chen Shi on the head. You just gave birth to a child. Benbo is still a yellow flower big plane. Chajadui. Pokpi looked at Pokigu in Sharona's arms with some curiosity in his eyes. She could feel that this was her own kind, her future look. Chen Shi coughed twice and introduced everyone to each other. This is Miss Sharona from Sinnoh, the one with silver hair over there is Zavoki Daigo, and the little girl is called Farong. We will be friends in the future, let's get to know each other. Farong looked at Sharona with stars in her eyes. Sister, you are so beautiful. Sharona replied politely. Thank you, it's nice to meet you, Sister Farong. Daigo was stunned there for a while and said, it's nice to meet you, Miss Sharona, your beauty is simply better than the top-grade light stone. As soon as these words came out, everyone was stunned, and Chen Shi looked at Daigo with an incredible face. He finally had a clearer understanding of how much Daigo liked stones. What a divine compliment, it really broadened his horizons. After Sharona came to her senses, she smiled, I have heard of you, the champion of this year's Caillou conference, and I am also very happy to meet you. Next, Sharona also released her Pokémon. Land Shark, Lucario, Melodic, Glaceon, and Glaceon. Hey, little shark, dog, Melodic, and Glaceon, long time no see. Except for Lucario who was a bit aloof and just nodded at him, the other 3 Pokémon surrounded Chen Shi. Land Shark, Nino, Bui, they were very familiar with Chen Shi, and Glaceon even jumped into Chen Shi's arms. Chen Shi habitually gave Glaceon a massage, which made this guy close his eyes in comfort. Bui, oh my god, hot spring massage, who knows? Daigo suddenly slapped his forehead at this moment. The severe choice-making disorder that Miss Sharona mentioned, could it be the genius researcher who recently released Leafeon, Ice Eevee, and Steelix? Sharona nodded slightly, then glared at Chen Shi fiercely. Just ask him directly. The latter shrank his head and pretended to be an ostrich. Daigo looked at Chen Shi in confusion, not understanding why Sharona asked him to ask him. Ahem, I am not talented, it is me. Just study it casually. Seeing that everyone's eyes were focused on him, Chen Shi knew he couldn't hide, so he had to admit it. Anyway, there was nothing to say about this, just admit it directly. The severe choice-making disorder is you. Daigo was really shocked this time. His friend had a lot of hidden things. I didn't expect that there was also a genius researcher behind the scenes. Chen Shi waved his hand, just a casual study, don't take it too seriously. Everyone's mouth twitched, this is still considered a casual study. Sharona was thinking about the evolution of intimacy and the 18th attribute. And Daigo was thinking about the stone and the unknown powerful force. If this can still be considered a casual study, then researchers below the doctorate level should just run into their heads and die. By the way, Daigo, I suddenly remembered that Scyther is not bad either, you should consider it too. I did some casual research recently and found that Scyther has another evolution, which is a bug plus steel attribute. This time, Daigo seemed much calmer, just nodded slightly to show that he understood. Farong interrupted at this time. Brother Chen Shi, I caught a Scyther for you and have teleported it back. There is also a Nura that is hard to find. I haven't caught it yet. Hearing this, Chen Shi said indifferently, it's okay, take your time, don't rush. Just catch one for me when you see it. Anyway, I don't have time to write a paper now. Then do you have other Pokémon to catch? Farong looked at Chen Shi expectantly. The latter knew what this little girl was thinking. Okay, I'll give you some money later. Okay, thank you brother Chen Shi. Farong agreed happily, and then continued to soak in the hot spring with squinting eyes. Now she was even happier. Chen Shi glanced at the Togepi in Sharona's arms, stood up and took out a box of fairy energy cubes from his backpack. Come here, little guy, I have something delicious for you. As he said, he took out the energy cube and gestured to Togepi. Pokebi smelled a scent that attracted her so much that she swallowed and looked at Sharona. Chajadui. Sharona nodded gently, and Pokebi immediately jumped out of the hot spring and ran to Chen Shi's side. After taking the energy cube, Pokebi trotted back to Sharona. Chen Shi laughed and scolded, what a clever little ghost. Just like his own Pokémon before it evolved, it turned its face and refused to recognize it after getting the benefits. Sirona looked at this pink energy cube and was puzzled. This energy cube is so strange, why haven't I seen it before? And Pokébee actually ate it happily. Chajadui. Chen Shi smiled and said meaningfully, this is the energy cube I specially customized for Pokébee. Now my Pokémon is still eating it. Hearing this, Sirona suddenly realized that this energy cube might not be simple. The two had traveled together for a year, and Sirona knew the latter quite well. This statement probably had a deep meaning. Thinking of the 18th attribute mentioned in the previous letter, he did not ask more questions. And Daigo did not think much about it. It was normal for breeders to customize energy blocks for their Pokémon. He had also seen this energy block. It was nothing more than a little more beautiful color, nothing strange. By the way, Sirona, I have a gift for you. Daigo's eyes suddenly became strange again, and he was silent. Even Farong seemed to have noticed something, and kept scanning between Sirona and Chen Shi. Chen Shi took out 3 boxes and asked the metal monster to send them to Sirona with telekinesis. What's in it? Chen Shi shrugged. Gifts, you will know when you open it. Sirona felt a little warm in her heart and took a box and opened it. Lipstick. Sirona looked at Chen Shi in surprise. This guy actually gave her lipstick. The sun was rising from the west. But soon Sirona discovered that this lipstick was not an ordinary lipstick. There was a stone with a special colorful pattern embedded underneath. Seeing Sirona notice the keystone, Chen Shi smiled inwardly, this is something I asked someone to customize. However, Sirona didn't seem to think much about it, and took another box and opened it. But when she opened it, Lucario's eyes immediately looked at the stone. I don't know why, this stone gave Lucario a very important feeling. Sirona also noticed this and asked directly, what's wrong, Lucario? Luca. After hesitating for a while, Lucario still shook his head. He didn't feel anything strange, just thought it was an illusion. On the other side, Daigo noticed it. Isn't this a very important stone? I didn't expect Chen Shi to give Sirona a piece directly. You still say you are ordinary friends. If you are ordinary friends, can you give this kind of thing casually? And we are also friends, and I didn't see you give me a piece. Thinking of this, Daigo looked at his friend dimly. Chen Shi also noticed Daigo's gaze, and after a light cough, he became confident. Don't you have two? And you said there are still many at home. Daigo rolled his eyes, not wanting to talk to this man who values love over friendship. At this time, Sirona had opened the 3rd box. There was also a stone in it, but the color and pattern on it were different from the previous one. Garchomp suddenly felt something and looked at the box in Shirona's hand. He had the same feeling as Lucario. This time, Sirona also noticed the abnormality of Garchomp, but she did not make a fuss, but closed the box directly. Once was a coincidence, could it be the same twice? She was not stupid. Chen Shi would not give her 2 useless stones. I'm afraid this stone also hides some secrets, and it is aimed at Garchomp and Lucario. There is also a lipstick that she didn't pay attention to before, which is also inlaid with a stone. Now it seems that the stone is also extraordinary. Chen Shi suddenly said, this is a gift I carefully prepared, you must keep it well. Sirona nodded slightly, and a hint of tenderness flashed in the depths of her eyes when she looked at Chen Shi. Thank you, I like this gift very much. Chapter 51. The next morning, the 4 of them gathered together and walked towards the Kamahen gym. There were people around like them, coming from all directions to watch the King of Kings show. There were basically many people of all kinds, and some of them were obviously wearing clothes from other regions, so they were probably not from the Hoenn region. There are so many people. Farong looked around. She had never seen so many people before, and she was a little nervous for a moment, and she held Chen Shi's arm tightly. Sirona frowned slightly, but didn't say anything. But Daigo was different. He just felt that he shouldn't be here at this time. I don't know why, but I always feel a little redundant. Chen Shi slapped Farong's hand away. There are many people, so why are you grabbing me? Let go. Farong pursed her lips immediately, then turned around and pulled Shirona's hand, and made a face at Chen Shi. Stingy guy, if you don't want to pull me, then don't pull me. Chen Shi glanced at her and said nothing. There are indeed a lot of people. It seems that this king's exhibition match is very popular, Daigo explained. This is the first open match of the new king. It is normal to attract attention. Chen Shi understood what Daigo meant. To put it bluntly, this exhibition match is to establish the prestige of the new king. Let everyone see the strength of this evil king. It is estimated that neither Yu nor Mura will show their true strength. At most, they will show the Pokémon that have just entered the king level. The result is likely to be a draw. Because it is unrealistic to say that Yu can beat Mura, and if Yu loses, the new king will lose face. The alliance does not want Yu to lose, and it is impossible to let Mura, the old king, lose, so the final result is likely to be a draw. Suddenly, Chen Shi saw a girl with red hair, wearing a pair of glasses, and exuding a cold breath. That girl seems to be the genius that Silver Academy claims to be rare in a century. I heard that she is an expert in ice. Hearing this, the three of them also cast their eyes over, wanting to see this genius that Silver Academy claims to be rare in a century. However, the girl was very sharp and instantly noticed the gazes of the four people and looked back. However, neither side did anything, just nodded slightly and retracted their gazes. Farong muttered softly, I feel that sister is so cold. Chen Shi thought to himself, then you don't know what she is like in private. In the memory of the previous life, this future ice king of the Kanto region is a cute girl who likes dolls in private. It can be said that the contrast is huge. It's comparable to Sharona. Soon, the four of them walked up to the audience stand, found their seats and sat down. But the people on both sides made Chen Shi feel something was wrong. Because on their left was Kona, and on their right sat a red-haired boy with a red cloak. Isn't this the dodo? I didn't expect him to come here, and he happened to sit with them. There is no trick here, Chen Shi would never believe it. Sharona greeted Kona on the left, what a coincidence, we meet again. My name is Sharona. Kona also smiled politely, it's really a coincidence, just call me Kona. Chen Shi leaned back and said slowly, I don't think this is a coincidence. So many coincidences are inevitable. Dao was a little confused, didn't he just meet the girl just now? What's strange about this? Seeing Daiwu's puzzled look, Chen Shi explained. The one next to you is Yulongdu from Kanto, do you still think this is a coincidence? Daiwu was startled and turned to look at Yulongdu beside him. Hello, Zifuchi Daigo, I have heard of the youngest senior investigator of the Alliance, Yulongdu, and today I finally met him in person. He now understood what his friend meant. This was indeed unlikely to be a coincidence. Look at how many gods are sitting in this row. The youngest intermediate breeder in the Alliance, the heir of the Zifuchi family, the goddess of battle in Sinnoh, the youngest investigator in the Alliance, and the most talented person in the Silver Academy in recent years. Well, there is also a simple and ignorant girl. Yulongdu was also a little surprised at this time. I have heard of you, the champion of the Kaiyu conference, the heir of the Zifuchi family. Yulongdu just heard the conversation next to him. At first, he thought the other party was talking about coincidence, but it turned out to be about the position. Chen Shi also said hello, just call me Chen Shi. Yulongdu was shocked again. The youngest intermediate breeder in the Alliance, the monster Chen Shi who claimed to be a master breeder in the future. He didn't feel they must have the same name, just because the other party can chat with Daigo, it seems that they are obviously friends. At this time, Sharona, who had been paying attention to the conversation here, also greeted softly. Hello, my name is Sharona. Yulongdu only felt a little numb, and finally understood what Chen Shi meant by, it's not a coincidence. Who is Sharona? The battle goddess of Sinnoh is now regarded as the future champion of Sinnoh. There is another Kona, who I also know, after all, they belong to the Kanto Alliance. Yulongdu sighed, it should be that the Alliance deliberately arranged us together. Everyone understood what he meant, but they just didn't say it out loud. The Alliance arranged it this way, probably to let these geniuses get in touch in advance. Maybe in the future, everyone will be the king champion of each major region. At that time, it will definitely be inevitable to get in touch, it's just a little earlier now. Farong looked left and right, and suddenly felt a little discouraged. The names of these people sound so powerful, I should not be able to beat any of them. What should I do? I was ignored. A little angry. Chen Shi noticed the little girl's strangeness and introduced her to everyone. This is Farong, the heir of the sending god volcano. Farong immediately stood up. Although her name is not good, her family is good. Kona and Yulongdu were also a little surprised. They didn't expect that this girl was actually from the sending god volcano in Fengyuan. After greeting Farong, he secretly remembered the name Farong in his heart. Chen Shi sighed in his heart. The alliance is really a good method, a little bit of arrangement, it brings together the future leaders of major regions. Farong opened her eyes wide and looked around the gradually quiet venue. Brother Chen Shi, is the exhibition match about to start? I see no one is talking anymore. Well, it's almost time. The two kings should be on stage. Chen Shi looked at the time and cast his eyes on the door in front of the battlefield. The next moment, the door was slowly opened and two figures walked out. One of them was a middle-aged man wearing red pants, black shoes, a slightly exposed collar of his shirt, and a tuft of red hair on his head. This was the new evil king of the Hoenn region, Yu. There was also an old man with a hunched back and a cane walking out with Yu. This old man was the Fire King, Mura. As the two walked out, the atmosphere in the field suddenly became high, and many people were shouting two names. Yu, Mura. Yu and Mura both stretched out their hands and waved in the direction of the audience, saying hello to the audience. Farong looked at the two people in the field with some curiosity. Brother Chen Shi, are these the four heavenly kings who are going to fight? Who do you think will win? This was the first time the little girl saw the four heavenly kings, and she couldn't help but feel curious about their next victory or defeat. No one will win, it's most likely a draw. Ah, why? Farong looked incredulous. How could a battle between people of this level be a draw? Even when Farong fights with others now, she either wins or loses, and a draw is basically difficult to appear. Chen Shi curled his lips. The world is not about fighting and killing, but about human relationships and worldly affairs. Farong, you still have a lot to learn. This completely confused Farong. Isn't this just a battle? Why is there any human relationship and worldly affairs involved? Her little head couldn't understand the meaning of this sentence at all. In her eyes, a battle is a battle, shouldn't you go all out to defeat the opponent? Okay, it's about to start. You'll know when you watch. On the field, a referee stepped on a shield sword monster with a microphone in his hand. Please get ready, two kings. This exhibition match will be a 3vs3 singles match. Yu grinned. Senior Mura, please teach me. The latter nodded slightly. Let's start. Okay, I declare that this king exhibition match officially begins. As the referee's voice fell, a layer of blue energy shield slowly rose over the entire battlefield. Yu took the lead in releasing a Pokeball. Go, blazing roaring tiger. Ha-hoo. The Pokeball opened, and a majestic blazing roaring tiger appeared on the field. Chen Shi was also a little surprised when he saw this Pokémon. After all, this guy was quite famous in his previous life and was called the #1 blazing roaring tiger in the universe. He also liked this kind of Pokémon very much, but unfortunately he had never met a suitable one. After taking a look at the data of the blazing roaring tiger, it turned out that Chen Shi was right. This was just a quasi-king level Pokémon, not even at the king level. This was definitely not Yu's main force, probably a Pokémon from the second team. The next moment, Mura also took out a Pokeball and opened it. An elegant Ninetale also appeared on the field, facing the blazing roaring tiger from a distance. Old Chen, who do you think will win this first game? Daigo folded his arms and asked his friend about his opinion on the first game. Kona and Yulongdu also tilted their ears slightly, wanting to see what this breeder genius could say. Senior Mura, who else could it be? After all, he is an old-fashioned king. I guess, blazing roaring tiger will be beaten if it uses a high 5 surprise attack, and then lose after consuming a lot of Ninetale's physical strength. As the heir of the Zifuchi family, Daigo has long been proficient in the ways of the world, and immediately understood what old Chen meant. As the veteran king of the alliance, Mura will definitely not lose the first game, and Yu will not let this old senior lose the first game. Kedu and Kona were a little confused as to why Chen Shi was so sure that Mura would win the first game, but they didn't ask. Anyway, they would know after watching. In the field, Yu immediately commanded, "Fiery roaring tiger, clap your hands to surprise attack, and then kick twice in a row." Ha! Fiery roaring tiger rushed out instantly, and the speed was incredibly fast. Mura was not in a hurry. Ninetales, take it. Strange eyes. The skill of high five surprise attack is also very fast in reality, and Ninetales can hardly dodge it, so it can only bear it. As expected, the fiery roaring tiger slapped Ninetales with a slap, which directly caused the cowering, and then used 2 consecutive kicks. Ninetales was directly repelled by the 2 consecutive kicks, but it endured it. Pain used the strange light. Fiery roaring tiger, get out of the way. Yu's anxious voice rang out in the field. But the distance was too close, and the fiery roaring tiger could not react at all and was hit by the strange light. On the field, Daigo shook his head. Although the damage of this strange light is not high, the fiery roaring tiger is now in chaos. Basically, there is no suspense in the first game. Everyone nodded slightly and agreed with this statement. This is how masters fight: one wrong step, all wrong steps. The subsequent development is the same as Chen Shi said. Juwei won the victory, but unfortunately most of his physical strength was consumed. Daigo asked again, Old Chen, how do you think the second game will develop? Chen Shi thought for a moment and replied, Hanazuki won 2 games in a row. After a long battle in the third game, both Pokémon lost their combat ability at the same time, and the game ended in a draw. Farong muttered, you haven't even seen the Pokémon they sent out yet, are you so sure? Chen Shi rolled his eyes at her, not wanting to pay attention to this naive person. But the situation in the next game surprised Farong. Yu summoned a Greninja, and after defeating the 9 tails, it defeated a flame chicken, and then lost its combat ability. Daigo sighed slightly, if I had known this would happen, I might as well go to Meteor Falls to dig stones. This exhibition match was almost like a script, arranged, and it looked boring. Chen Shi yawned, it's just an exhibition match. What do you think it is? If it's a real battle between the kings, how can so many spectators come to watch? Afterwards, Mura and Yu sent out the last Pokémon, which lost their combat ability at the same time after fighting for 300 rounds. The shouting in the field never stopped, and the atmosphere reached a climax at the moment when the game ended in a tie. Chen Shi and others felt bored and stood up to leave. Yulongdu stopped them. I don't know if you have time, I will treat everyone to a meal, just as making friends. Kona also showed a smile on his face, you shouldn't mind adding me, right? Chen Shi and the others looked at each other and understood each other's meaning. Daigo said softly, no problem, let's go. It was still the familiar box, but this time it was much more crowded. Chen Shi was sitting in the box and felt a little incredible. Who are these future people? At least they are the 4 heavenly kings. There are 3 champions. The future champion of Hoenn, Daigo, the champion of Chengdu, Yulongdu, the champion of Sinnoh, Sirona, and the future ghost king of Hoenn, and the future ice king of Kanto. Now all these people are sitting next to him, eating together. It's incredible. Chen Shi sighed in his heart. Then he said, will you all participate in the future world championships? Of course, how can such a competition be without me? Du had a confident smile on his face and a firm tone. My goal is to become the dragon champion of the Kanto region. After hearing what Du said, Chen Shi almost couldn't hold back his laughter. Then your dragon Pokémon must be very powerful, right? This sounds fine, but the problem is that this guy only has 1 dragon, the dragon, and the others are all Pokémon like Charizard, Gyarados, and Fossil Pterosaur. These Pokémon only have the word, dragon, in their names. What do the others have to do with dragons? Du and the others didn't hear the strangeness in Chen Shi's tone. Only Sharona noticed it, but she didn't understand what Chen Shi meant. Of course, they are all good partners who fight side by side with me. Then I'll have to meet them if I have a chance. Chen Shi suppressed his smile and said calmly. Du smiled brightly, no problem, there will definitely be a chance. Then he changed the subject. I heard from my father that this world championship is not as simple as it seems on the surface. It is very likely to be related to the degree of talent training in various regions in the future. Du was not talking nonsense, this was indeed what his father said. The rewards for this world championship are extremely rich, but these are all superficial. The arrangements in the mainland are the most critical. This event can be said to have brought together talents under the age of 20 from all over the league. I don't know how many big guys are paying attention to it. If you can perform well in this event and catch the attention of the league is likely to tilt resources towards those who perform well in the future. Kona also reminded him. Ardeen also said this. Chen Shi was speechless, so I didn't know. Even Daigo told me what the reward was. Forget it, you all have extraordinary backgrounds, and I, an ordinary citizen, won't compete with you. For the World Championship, Chen Shi said that he was lying when he said he had no ideas, but he also knew his own strengths. After the evolution of Duronics, it will definitely not be weaker than these geniuses, and there is also a Swampert, which can be regarded as an ace. But Chen Shi's other Pokémon are much worse. Lady Flower and Leafeon are still elite, and Pokémon is even advanced. As for Metal Monster and Charmander, it's better not to mention them. There are more than 2 months left, and they will definitely grow, but others are also growing. So for the World Championship, Chen Shi thinks that he should just do his best. What are your plans next? Du took 2 bites of food and asked everyone. I should go to Meteor Falls to dig stones. Daigo wiped his mouth, his tone was full of excitement. After going to Meteor Falls with Chen Shi for 2 days, the harvest was amazing. He has completely fallen in love with the place. After finishing the work here, he plans to continue to go to Meteor Falls to dig stones and train Pokémon by the way. Daigo has been looking forward to the championship in 2 months. I should go back to the academy. The dean said that he would give me special training for a period of time. Kona's words were still brief, but he also made it clear where he was going. As for me, I plan to go back to Sinnoh. This time I came to see my friends, and now it's time to go back. Sharona's eyes stayed on Chen Shi for a while, and her tone was indifferent. In front of outsiders, Sharona always looks cold. But as long as you get along for a long time, you will find that she is a very gentle and kind girl in private. After that, everyone's eyes were focused on Chen Shi. The latter drank a sip of water and said lightly, I'll go back to the farm to bask in the sun. Daigo immediately became anxious. Didn't we agree to go digging stones together? Chen Shi thought for a moment and agreed, okay, then go to Meteor Falls to dig stones for a while. The reason why he agreed to Daigo was that he wanted to train in Meteor Falls for a while and accumulate more combat experience for his Pokémon. As for digging stones, it was left to Daigo. Me, and me, I want to travel and experience the local customs and customs of various places. Farong couldn't wait to raise her hand and proudly expressed her thoughts. Chen Shi sneered with a smile, don't let someone cheat you out of your money again and then become a beggar. Farong wilted immediately, and her pride just now was gone. Daigo looked a little unnatural. After all, he had arranged for someone to cheat this girl's money. Du spoke at this time. As for me, I plan to track down the lava team that appeared in Meteor Falls. I heard that someone saw the lava team in the depths of Meteor Falls. This organization has been making a lot of noise recently. I'll go see if I can catch them. Chen Shi and Daigo looked at each other and didn't say much. The news was provided by them as expected. After all, Huoshu was caught, but his men hadn't made any moves yet. After returning, Daigo contacted someone to report the news. Unexpectedly, it was Du who came to deal with the incident. But this has nothing to do with the two of them, anyway, they are not investigators. After that, everyone dispersed and agreed to meet again at the World Championships. Sharona found Chen Shi alone, and the two walked on the streets of Fen Town, speechless for a while. After a long time, Sharona said softly, I'm leaving. Chen Shi chuckled, have a safe journey. You don't have anything to tell me. Chen Shi thought seriously for a while, and said, keep the lipstick and the 2 stones safe, they are very important. Also, train Togepi well, and replace her energy cubes with the ones I gave you in the future. Tell me when you're done eating, and I'll send them to you. If she learns some moves you don't know, don't make it public. Also, remember to eat on time, don't stay in bed in the morning, pay attention to the time when training, don't be too tired. I heard that the temperature has dropped in Sinnoh, you should pay attention to wearing more clothes. Chen Shi kept talking like an old mother, and Sharona was listening very seriously. She looked at the chattering boy in front of her, her eyes full of tenderness. Hey, Lao Chen, why are you in a daze? Is it because your good friend left? In the hotel, seeing Chen Shi sitting on the sofa in a daze, Daigo couldn't help but tease him. Chen Shi came back to his senses and said unhappily, "What are you thinking about? We are just ordinary friends." "I was thinking about other things." Chen Shi really didn't fool Daigo. He was really thinking about other things just now. The experience today made Chen Shi feel different. Although today's King of Kings exhibition match was very watery, it was all according to the script. But the unbridled momentum of Wyu and the unshakable feeling of Senior Mura touched him a little. Especially after meeting Dudu and Kona, Chen Shi found that they all carried a kind of confidence from the inside out, which made people feel inferior when they saw it. In fact, Sharona and Daigo are also like this, but they have been together for a long time, so it is inevitable that they have overlooked it. They are all top talents in various regions, and they all firmly believe that they are not inferior to others. But Chen Shi didn't. Before he even participated in the tournament, he felt that he was not as good as these people and planned to do his best. But Chen Shi thought of Swampert, Charmander and others. He had promised to take them to the highest stage and let everyone cheer their names. When can he do it? Are some choices really correct? I hid my shortcomings when I was a child, I hid my shortcomings when I grew up, and I still have to hide my shortcomings now. As I hid, I seem to have lost that kind of confidence. You know, I used to be as confident as Yulong do. Daigo, tell me, why are there so many things that are beyond your control in this life? Daigo was stunned and looked at his friend, but found that he was confused. Daigo was shocked. Who is this friend of his? A real genius, the future of the breeder, and this is just his title on the surface. I don't know how much is hidden underneath. Now such a genius would actually show a confused expression, which shocked Daigo. However, after thinking carefully about Chen Shi's words, Daigo suddenly sighed. There are many things in life that are beyond one's control. For example, I like stones, like fighting, and love Pokémon, but in fact, I don't spend much time on these. Because I am still the heir of the Zifuchi family, I have to learn how to manage the company and how to deal with people. I don't have much time to dig stones and accompany my Pokémon. I'm not afraid of you laughing at me. It wasn't until I started traveling last year that I really had time to do what I like. But this is what I have to accept, because I enjoy the convenience of being the heir of the Zifuchi family, so I have to bear the corresponding responsibilities. Chen Shi sighed. Indeed, Daigo's identity allowed him to enjoy too much, so he also needed to bear more. Afterwards, Chen Shi asked again, do you think I am too cautious in doing things, always afraid of this and that? Daigo was stunned, and then he suddenly realized that it seemed that this was what confused him. After organizing his words, Daigo hesitated and said, if it were someone else, hiding one's weaknesses would be fine. But, if it were you, I don't think it would be necessary. Your grandparents are both top breeders in the alliance, and their connections are so wide. How many forces in the world dare to offend your Chen family? Besides, we are friends, aren't we? If you have something, would I not help you? Have you forgotten? My father is not only the president of Devon Company, but also the vice president of the Hoenn Alliance. Chen Shi felt a little warm in his heart. One hand touched the necklace hidden in his clothes, and the other hand gently brushed the Pokeball on his waist. He made a decision in his heart. Old Chen, come quickly, I dug another one. Deep in the Meteor Falls, Daigo found Chen Shi who was training Pokémon with a stone. This is the 24th day since they entered the Meteor Falls, and it has been almost a month since the King's show. Chen Shi glanced at the stone that Daigo brought. It was the Hera Heroes Mega Evolution Stone. After more than half a month, Daigo dug out a total of 5 super stones from Meteor Falls, and the harvest was not bad. Keep it, it will be useful in the future. Daigo nodded slightly and smiled. I arranged someone outside to help me collect this stone, and I don't know what happened to it. Can you trust the person you arranged? Don't worry, this person is absolutely trustworthy, and I didn't say what this stone is for, I just said that I like it, no one will doubt it. Seeing Daigo's confident look, Chen Shi didn't say much. It wasn't suspicious that Daigo was collecting super stones, because everyone knew that Daigo was an avid stone lover like his father. Daigo also promised that he would give him 50% of the collected stones, so Chen Shi let him go. I'm going to leave Meteor Falls. Do you still want to stay here? Daigo was stunned for a moment, then sighed. You've left, why am I still here? I'll go with you. It's time to go back and take a look. I've been away from home for so long. But I may not leave until tomorrow. I felt that there was something in that place I just dug. I can't sleep if I don't dig it out. Okay, Chen Shi agreed with a smile. You can come to the farm to find me if you have anything in the future. I'll leave first. No problem. Daigo waved and said goodbye to his friend. In Luin Town, Chen's farm, Chen Shi looked at everything familiar in front of him and couldn't help but chuckle. After entering the villa, Grandpa was drinking tea and Grandma was sitting aside reading a book. When they heard the door open, the two old people turned their heads and looked over, and their faces immediately showed a surprised expression. Xiaoxi, you are back. Seeing Grandma was about to get up, Chen Shi hurried over to support her. Grandma, you just sit down. Okay, Grandma, sit down. Grandma Chen's eyes were full of smiles. The old man patted his grandson's hand and said with concern, Xiaoxi, how was your trip this time? Did you encounter any danger? For Grandma Chen, as long as her grandson is not at home for a day, she will always be worried. She is always afraid that her grandson will encounter danger outside. Only by staying with her can the old man feel at ease. No, Chen Shi shook his head and then confessed to his grandparents. Grandpa and Grandma, I plan to cooperate with Devon Company to find super evolution stones together. Mujin and his son are famous for their love of various stones. No one will doubt them for collecting these. When super evolution is exposed in the future, we will not be afraid of being coveted by others if we cooperate with our two families. Do you agree? The two old men looked at each other, and Grandpa Chen said, you can decide these things. We all support you. Little boy, do what you think is right, don't worry too much. Chen Shi felt a little warm in his heart and took out a piece of scale from his backpack. Grandpa, this is the reverse scale left by the champion peak Tyrannosaurus after his death. If this is given to Tyrannosaurus, can he break through to the champion level? Difficult. Grandpa Chen shook his head slowly. Tyrannosaurus is not talented enough. Even with this reverse scale, it is difficult to break through to the champion level. Chen Shi was silent for a while. I know you have a way. Grandpa, don't think about leaving anything for me, give it to Tyrannosaurus. Help her break through to the champion level. As soon as these words came out, the atmosphere in the living room fell into silence. The two old men did have something hidden, but they left it for Duolongqi, and they were reluctant to use it on Baofialong. Baofialong had been silent for too long, and he no longer had the original spirit, but Duolongqi was different. He was still young and his future achievements were limitless. But if they gave it to Baofialong, the future of their grandson and Duolongqi would be much more difficult. This was something the two old men did not want to do. As they said, they were old, and the only thing they thought of was this grandson. If there was anything good, they would first think of leaving it for their grandson. Grandpa Chen sighed slightly. Xiao, I don't know how you know this, but this thing is too precious. I left it for Xiao Duolong. In the future, this thing will definitely help you at a critical moment. Chen Shi did not agree with his grandfather's idea and said seriously, you should believe me in Duolong. If there is anything, I will fight with Duolong myself, and your things will be given to Baofialong. Let her break through to the champion level. Grandpa Chen did not give up and gave his wife a look. Grandma Chen understood immediately and began to persuade her. Xiao, you should listen to your grandfather about this matter. That thing is really important. It is not comparable to the reverse scale of a champion level Baofialong like you. Grandpa and Grandma will not hurt you. Listening to Grandma's words, Chen Shi's eyes were hot. He knew that Grandpa and Grandma were doing good for him and gave him almost everything they had. But just because the old people love you, you can't just ask for it blindly. Grandpa and Grandma's things should have belonged to Baofialong. Grandpa, give it to Tyrannosaurus. I have my own opportunity, so you don't have to worry about it. As he said that, Chen Shi took out the black box that he had kept close to his body from his pocket. As soon as he opened it, Duolongqi's Pokeball shook violently, and it suddenly came out of the ball by itself. Chia, Duolongqi stared at the scales in the box, his narrow eyes full of heat and desire. If it weren't for the box in Chen Shi's hand, he would have pounced on it immediately. I'll give it to you when you evolve, don't worry. Chia, after hearing what Chen Shi said, Duolongqi calmed down and looked away from the scales. The two old men also saw the scales in the box and Duolongqi's performance just now, and their eyes were full of surprise. Grandma Chen asked directly, "Little boy, what is this?" "This is a scale that fell off naturally from Giratina. You should have heard of Giratina." Grandma Chen couldn't sit still this time. She stood up directly with a look of shock in her eyes. Grandma Chen was originally from Sinnoh. She came to living in Hoenn. How could she not know the name of Giratina? This is the ruler of the reversed world, the legendary beast Giratina standing at the top of the world. This is actually the reverse scale that fell off naturally, which is too unbelievable. Chen Shi continued. Giratina is also a dragon and ghost attribute. This reverse scale is the most suitable resource for Doraemon. I don't know what else you have hidden, but for Doraemon, it is definitely not as good as this reverse scale. So Grandpa, give your things to Tyrannosaurus. Grandpa Chen fell silent this time, as if he was thinking. Chen Shi did not make a sound to interrupt him, and just sat quietly aside. Then, Grandpa Chen sighed heavily, although I still think it's better to leave it to Doraemon, if it is your request, Grandpa promises you. Wait for me here. After speaking, Grandpa Chen got up and left, walking towards the bedroom. After a long time, Grandpa Chen came back with a box. This is the most precious treasure your grandmother and I have ever obtained in our lives. We originally wanted to leave it to Duolongqi, but now you can take it. With your piece of Tyrannosaurus reverse scale, it should be enough for Tyrannosaurus and Garchomp to break through to the champion level. Chen Shi was shocked. What kind of treasure could allow Tyrannosaurus and Garchomp to break through to the champion level at the same time? But this is better. Originally, he only wanted Tyrannosaurus to be a champion, but he didn't expect to be able to bring Garchomp. Taking the box, Chen Shi slowly opened it, and saw a blood-red gem lying quietly inside. Dragon Blood Crystal, originally a top-level dragon gem, was irrigated with the blood of the Sky Seat, and transformed underground for thousands of years, turning into this crystal. Closing square bracket. Chen Shi took a breath of cold air. What the hell is this? A top-level dragon gem irrigated with the blood of the Sky Seat has now turned into a dragon blood crystal. It's simply out of the ordinary. He didn't think Rayquaza was so bored that he would use his blood to irrigate a dragon gem. It should be that during the battle of Rayquaza, blood just happened to fall on this dragon gem, and after 1,000 years, it turned into dragon blood crystal. No wonder Grandpa said that it should be able to make Tyrannosaurus and Garchomp both break through the champion. This thing is indeed qualified to do it. After closing the box, Chen Shi looked at Grandpa Chen with a dim gaze. Grandpa, tell me, do you have any good things hidden? Grandpa Chen was stunned, then reacted and said unhappily, what good things do you think about every day? Hurry up and do what you need to do. Grandpa, do you know what this is? No, but I have confirmed that there is a very rich and pure dragon energy in it, which must be a legendary resource. Okay, then I'll go to the back mountain to find the Tyrannosaurus. Go ahead. As soon as Chen Shi left, Grandma Chen couldn't help but say, Xiao Shi is so anxious to let Tyrannosaurus break through to the champion level. There must be some reason we don't know. Old man, do you think Xiao Shi encountered something outside? Grandpa Chen shook his head slowly. I don't know, but all we can do is support him. The child has grown up and has his own ideas. That's great, let's not worry about it. Quote. I'm just worried. Grandpa Chen glared. Don't worry about it. As long as Tyrannosaurus and Garchomp break through the champion level, we still have nothing to worry about. You're right, sometimes I really hope that I can be a little more ordinary when I was young, and I can spend my life safely. In the back mountain, Chen Shi came to the Tyrannosaurus cave and shouted, Sister Long, Brother Shark, I'm here to see you. Roar. After a while, a roar sounded in the cave. Tyrannosaurus flew out first, and Garchomp followed slowly behind. Tyrannosaurus looked at Chen Shi in confusion, as if asking what was wrong. Chen Shi walked up and touched the scales under Tyrannosaurus' neck. Sister Long, I have many secrets and many precious things. Once these things are leaked, I'm afraid many people will have bad intentions, and I don't have the ability to keep these things, so I need your strength. Roar. Bao Feilong roared and looked at Chen Shi seriously, as if to say, don't worry, I'm here. I know you are strong, Sister Long, but this is not enough, I need you to become stronger. As he said, Chen Shi took out the reverse scale of Bao Feilong, then took out the box given by his grandfather and slowly opened it. A strong desire suddenly emerged in Bao Feilong's body, and there was a voice in her heart telling her to eat it, eat it, eat it. On the other side, Lai Bite Lu Shark was no longer lazy. The moment the box was opened, he immediately rushed over, his eyes fixed on the dragon blood crystal in the box. Chen Shi smiled and said, "This reverse scale is for Sister Long, and there is also a dragon blood crystal for you to use together. Enough to help you break the barrier of the champion level." Roar. Bao Feilong pointed at the dragon blood crystal, and then pointed at himself, meaning, "Are you sure you want to give it to me?" Chen Shi nodded and said affirmatively, "This is for you, take it and use it, Sister Long." Bao Feilong hesitated for a moment, resisted the desire of his body, stretched out his claws to cover the box, and then pointed at the Pokeball of Duo Longqi on Chen Shi's waist. Roar. "Give it to that little guy, it's wasted on me." Bao Feilong knew that his talent had reached its limit. Even if he broke through to the champion level, what would it matter? It would be better to leave this treasure to Duo Longqi, so that he could accompany Xiaoxi to go higher and further. Chen Shi only felt his eyes soar, and an inexplicable feeling emerged in his heart. Even Bao Feilong was like this, just thinking about leaving good things for himself. You should also think about yourself. Chen Shi was silent for 2 seconds, and said firmly, "Sister Long, take it. This is Grandpa's thing, and it should belong to you. As for me and Duolongqi, we have something more suitable, you don't have to worry." Bao Feilong wanted to refuse, but Chen Shi's next words made her unable to refuse. "Sister Long, have you forgotten what I just said? I need your strength to protect me, Grandpa and Grandma, and this farm. So, please don't refuse." Bao Feilong couldn't beat Chen Shi, and finally agreed, and returned to the cave with the reverse scale and dragon blood crystal. "Brother Shark, your wife is stronger than you, what do you think?" Ligao Shark snorted disdainfully, "Stronger than me, so what? Can someone still snatch my wife away? Besides, I just heard that I also have a share of the dragon blood crystal. It's just that I broke through a little later than her. What's the matter?" Outside the cave, Chen Shi and Liao Lu Shark were guarding outside, glancing inside from time to time. "This is not a fantasy world. You don't have to retreat for a long time. You can break through at once, so one person and one dragon are waiting outside. Alas, it's difficult for you to have children. It's probably even more difficult to break through to the champion level now. I don't know if I can wait for Sister Long to lay an egg in this life." Chen Shi hugged his head and lay on the ground. Go up. Garchomp didn't want to pay any attention to Chen Shi at all. Now he was focused on his wife. The champion level had held them back for nearly 20 years. How could it be so easy to break through? Garchomp was still a little worried. This made Chen Shi sigh in surprise. "Brother Shark, I thought you only knew how to drink and didn't care about your wife." Garchomp's eyes widened, and he was about to retort. A magnificent aura like the power of heaven emanated from the cave. Chen Shi felt that the blood in his body had solidified, and he couldn't even move his fingers. All the Pokeballs on Chen Shi's waist opened automatically, and Doranqi and the others appeared in front of Chen Shi, helping him to resist the aura with difficulty. Chen Shi wanted to call Garchomp, but found that he couldn't even say a word, and his entire back was wet with cold sweat. At this time, after the ecstasy, Garchomp finally reacted and rushed to Chen Shi to protect him. After a while, the shocking momentum finally subsided, and Duo Longqi and the others breathed a sigh of relief, lying on the ground one by one, breathing heavily. Chen Shi was fine when Garchomp protected him, but it was not until now that he felt his blood flowing again and his body regained consciousness. Chen Shi swallowed his saliva. Now he finally understood how big the gap between the king and the champion was. This momentum can scare people to death. After a long while, Dragonite slowly flew out of the cave. Chen Shi looked at Dragonite, which was the same as before, but different in some ways, and congratulated it. "Congratulations, Sister Long. After so many years, you have finally broken through to the champion level." Roar. Dragonite lowered its head and gently rubbed Chen Shi. Pokémon. Dragonite. Level 80 Champion Primary. Qualification. Champion. Features. Overconfidence. Gender. Female. Skills. Stare, Bite, Headbutt, Bite, Dragon Claw, Dragon Tail, Dragon Breath, Jet Flame, Flame Fang, Lightning Fang, Flame Vortex, Sunny Day, Dragon Wave, Reverse Scale, Meteor Swarm, Destruction Death Light, Hold. Level 80, Champion Primary. Chen Shi looked at this level with a sigh. One level difference is like a world of difference. Afterwards, Dragonite took out the thing in its claws, which was a piece of dragon blood crystal with a much darker color. Chen Shi handed it to the long-awaited Garchomp. The latter didn't waste any words and ran into the cave excitedly. Chen Shi immediately said hello to Tyranitar, took back Doranix and the others, and left in a hurry. Chen Shi really didn't want to feel that kind of momentum again, so he ran away. Judging from the color of the dragon blood crystal, it would be absolutely no problem to help Doranix break through together. In the training ground in the backyard of the Chen family, Chen Shi released all his Pokémon. After nearly a month of training, Doranix, Charmeleon and Metallo have changed a lot. And they have made great progress. Doranix is level 59, Swampert is level 58, Lady Flower is level 53, Leafeon is level 51, Pokémon is level 44, Charmander has now evolved into Charmeleon, reaching level 40, and Metallo is level 32. Among them, Doranki has reached the edge of evolution, and Chen Shi plans to let him evolve after a few days of training. The problem of Charmander has been solved long ago. When it evolved into Charmeleon, it broke through to the elite level at once. Chen Shi plans to let it evolve later and adapt to his body first, so he also brought the immutable stone. As for Metal Monster, it can only be said to be so terrifying. He is too smart, and there is no need to worry about learning skills. His combat talent is terrifying. Chen Shi gave it the Metagross training manual a long time ago, letting it train itself. Madame Wajia has learned several fairy skills, including the power of the moon. Now the fairy energy in her body is already sufficient, and it is no problem to support a battle. Pokémon is much worse, but it has also learned a magic flash. Looking at his own Pokémon in front of him, Chen Shi's voice softened unconsciously. In more than a month, there will be a competition that will gather all the talents under the age of 20 in the entire league. Where will the eyes of the world be cast? Raw TS. Swampert shouted excitedly when he heard this. He enjoyed the feeling of defeating his opponent the most. In such a large arena, there must be a lot of spectators, right? Swampert seemed to have seen that the spectators were calling his name. When he thought of this, Swampert couldn't help but get excited and wanted to go back and train more. But Chen Shi looked around and said lightly, the opponents this time are all very strong. Most of you know Sharona, right? If you compare her to an opponent, who of you has the confidence to defeat her? Doranki and Swampert's faces sank. They naturally knew how strong Sharona was. Swampert was never a match for that land shark before, and could only fight back and forth with Lucario. As for Lady Wajia, Leafeon and Pokémon didn't think so much. What they thought was that they would work hard during this period and try their best when the time comes. They are not the kind of Pokémon that have a strong desire to fight, but if Chen Shi sends them out, they will also try their best. The usual training will also be completed on time. But this is already very good. Chen Shi can't ask all Pokémon to be the same as Swampert. Chen Shi continued, and Sharona may not be the strongest opponent. After all, there are people who are a few years older than Sharona and me, and they may be stronger. I don't like the feeling of losing, and I believe you don't like it either. So if you want to win, you have to train well in the past month, and try to sprint in this month, and then we will go on that stage together. During this time, I will also buy various resources to ensure that I will not drag you down. Chia, La, Wa, all kinds of calls suddenly sounded, and the Pokémon responded enthusiastically to their trainers. Chen Shi also saw their attitudes. Well, after more than a month of fighting, it's time for you to calm down. Have a good rest today and start training tomorrow. Soon. Just as Chen Shi was about to leave, Swampert stopped him. Do you want to go back to your parents and let them give you special training? Soon. Swampert nodded heavily. Chen Shi was silent for a while and patted his arm. Go, tell me directly if you need anything. Soon. Swampert agreed and jumped out of the wall to find his parents. Chia, Dronchi also twisted his tail and came to the trainer. Chen Shi rubbed his temple and waved his hand. Go, go, you go too. Chia, Dronchi shouted excitedly and flew away immediately. He knew that the two masters were different now, and they might have something new to teach him. Chen Shi looked at Yi. Do you want to go over there? Booey, booey. The Lizard King said I don't have to go anymore. Yi shook his head and explained. Is that so? Then you can train in the backyard in the future. Anyway, there is a big place here and I can see you anytime. Booey. Yi nodded excitedly. As long as she could be with Xiaoxi and her little sisters, she would be very happy. Pokigu, Charmeleon, Metal Monster, you three have to work hard, otherwise you won't be able to keep up with everyone else. Wow, Beta, Choco. The first two were normal and full of confidence. But the Pokigu behind had a bitter face and looked at Chen Shi pitifully. Chen Shi was helpless, stretched out two fingers and shook them. If you train hard, you can get 2 ice creams every day. Choco. Pokigu's fighting spirit was immediately ignited, and he patted his body with his little hands, saying that he would definitely train hard and would not hold everyone back. Chen Shi smiled and rubbed the guy's head. I really can't do anything about you. Pokigu smirked, flew to him and rubbed his face intimately. In the evening, at the dining table, Chen Shi was absent-mindedly eating his meal, thinking about what he needed to do this time. Some things should be accelerated, such as releasing the evolution of the giant claw mantis and finding ways to improve his researcher level. It would be best to have a senior researcher, if not, at least an intermediate one. While training Pokémon, improve the reputation of the researcher field as quickly as possible. If possible, look for a backer. This person needs to have a lot of say in the alliance, so that people dare not offend him, so that they can stand up for him in the future. Chen Shi already has some ideas about this. After Doranki evolves, he will go to find Dr. Odumaki. In the Hoenn region, apart from Daigo and his son, Dr. Odumaki's character is worthy of his trust. Chen Shi plans to go to Dr. Odumaki's research institute and talk to him about something. In fact, Dr. Oak is the best candidate in Chen Shi's mind, because Dr. Oak not only has a lot of say in the alliance but also has strong strength. His Dragonite is extremely strong. It's a pity that Professor Oak is from the Kanto region, so it's probably not easy to stand up for him. Chen Shi laughed at himself in his heart. It would be good if one of these big guys could speak for him. Why did he pick one? After thinking about it, Chen Shi planned to write a paper on the giant mantis tonight, and then add a mosquito-repellent frog king, which would definitely blow up all these doctors. I will take the opportunity to propose some ideas and then directly request a visit. I believe these doctors will definitely not refuse. After making up his mind, Chen Shi's eyes condensed and he said, Grandpa, can you help me find a flying mantis and mosquito-repellent king as quickly as possible? There is no potential requirement, as long as the high-level strength is enough. Grandpa Chen immediately nodded and agreed. Without asking any more questions, he got up and went back to his room. Grandma Chen didn't say anything, but a little worry rose in her heart. They all saw that her grandson was absent-minded just now, and knew that he was thinking about something, so they didn't disturb him and kept eating in silence. The grandson suddenly asked for a scyther and a mosquito, and there was no potential requirement. Considering his identity as a researcher, it is not difficult to guess what he wants to do. Since Xiaoxi came back this time, he seemed to have become a different person, and he became eager to do things, as if there was a big crisis waiting for him. How could the old man not worry? However, when she thought of her husband's Tyrannosaurus and her own Tyrannosaurus, both of which had broken through to the champion level, Grandma Chen's worries dissipated a lot. She didn't believe that with 2 champion-level quasi-gods, who would dare to touch her grandson. Grandma, I'm done eating. I'll go back to my room first. Grandpa will help me find Pokémon and then ask Gardevoir to call me. Okay, Xiaoxi, go ahead. Grandma remembers it. Back upstairs, Chen Shi rushed straight to the computer and started typing. Pokémon, who was licking ice cream in the room, looked confused. What's going on? Why does Xiaoxi seem to be in a hurry? Pokigu curiously flew behind Chen Shi and watched him typing on the computer, all of which were things he couldn't understand. Pokigu soon lost interest, but didn't disturb Shi, and flew to the bed to eat ice cream quietly. Leafy Eevee in the corner also opened his eyes and looked at it, then quickly closed his eyes again. I have to rest well today, and I have to increase the amount of training tomorrow. If I don't rest now, when will I rest? At 11 o'clock the next morning, 3 papers set off the entire researcher forum. Because the publisher was a serious choice difficulty who became famous some time ago, and he published 3 papers at a time. They are, The Evolution of Scyther, Evolutionary Branches of Mosquito Coil King, and, A Conjecture on How Slowpoke Evolves into Slowpoke. How can this not be shocking? The entire researcher forum was in full swing at this time. Spy mantis actually evolved by carrying metal membranes, and the evolved form is the giant mantis with bug steel attributes, which is incredible. Yeah, isn't this the same as Steelix before? And this, Mosquito Coon actually has another evolutionary branch, which is the Mosquito Coon Frog King found in the wild before. It turns out that it evolved by carrying the King's certificate communication. Tisk 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 tisk, this person with severe choice difficulty has thoroughly studied the evolution of communication. Yeah, this person is really amazing. I don't know what he thinks in his mind, he can even study this. There is also an evolution conjecture about Slowpoke. I think what this person said is very right. Slowpoke is also likely to have evolved using the King's certificate. At this time, under the paper, a group of people were discussing one after another, and Chen Shi's backstage message instantly reached 99+. However, Chen Shi didn't care. After staying up all night, his eyes were bloodshot and he stared at the computer screen. He was still waiting for some people to show up, and then he would contact them naturally. Time passed by minute, and Chen Shi was already very sleepy, but he hadn't waited for the person he was waiting for to show up. Just when Chen Shi couldn't stand it anymore and wanted to sleep, a comment was pushed to the top. Excellent idea, I think your evolution conjecture of Slowpoke is very likely. You can find a Slowpoke and the King's certificate to verify it. I look forward to the moment when you succeed. This is Professor Oak in the Kanto region. As soon as his comment came out, it was immediately pushed up. Chen Shi's eyes lit up and he immediately replied, "Hello, Professor Oak, I have some other conjectures. I wonder if I can discuss them with you in private." Soon, Oak replied, "No problem." Chen Shi immediately sent a private message to Professor Oak. "Professor Oak, I think among Pokémon, some Pokémon do not evolve by special items or magnetic fields. Instead, they evolve by the intimacy between Pokémon and Pokémon, or between trainers and Pokémon. For example, Riolu evolves into Lucario." Afterwards, Chen Shi expressed his conjectures one by one, and said that he had a Pokémon, which also evolved by intimacy. But Chen Shi also admitted that this conjecture was difficult to verify, but it did exist. On the other side, in a huge research institute in Pallet Town, Kanto region, a white-coated Professor Oak, holding instant noodles in his hand, fell into deep thought as he looked at the message sent on the computer. Quote. Intimacy evolution. What a bold idea. But the bolder it is, the more I like it. After thinking for a while, Professor Oak replied directly. Your conjecture is very interesting. If you have time, you can come to the Oak Research Institute in Pallet Town and we can discuss it in person. After agreeing on a time with Professor Oak, Chen Shi also fell directly on the bed and fell asleep. Leafy and Pokémon were very conscious. After eating food early in the morning, they went to the backyard for training. There was no one in the room at this time. So he slept until the night, until he was woken up by Pokémon who came back. Choco. Pokémon looked at her trainer with some concern. She knew that the trainer had not slept last night. I'm fine, but I'm very hungry now, so I'll go down first. You can play by yourself. Choco. Chen Shi rubbed Pokémon's head, then turned and went downstairs. He hasn't eaten since last night, and his stomach has long protested with dissatisfaction. In the living room downstairs, Grandma Chen saw her grandson coming down, and she was slightly relieved and hurriedly greeted him. Garnado, hurry up, go and bring the food I prepared. Sana. Garnado disappeared in an instant. The next moment, several dishes, a plate of grilled meat and rice floated around her. Chen Shi was not polite either. He sat down and started eating. He was really hungry. Grandpa Chen sat aside in silence. When his grandson said that he was a researcher, the old man paid attention to the researcher forum. He also knew what happened this morning, so he didn't say anything, just sat quietly aside. After eating a few mouthfuls of rice, Chen Shi said, "Grandpa and Grandma, I plan to go to the Kanto area. It may take some time to come back." Grandma Chen's heart sank. "Why are you going out again?" You changed just after coming back yesterday. This time you have to go out again. What if something happens again? Grandma Chen wanted to refuse politely, but her husband asked first. Where are we going to Kanto? Chen Shi took a bite of the barbecue. We are going to Oak Research Institute in Pallet Town, Kanto region. Grandpa and Grandma, you don't have to worry about my safety. When Grandma Chen heard that they were going to Professor Oak in Pallet Town, she gave up her refusal, but still reminded them. You can go, but bring Tyrannosaurus or Garchomp with you, otherwise Grandma won't let you go. Okay, I'll bring my brother Shark with me. Grandma, don't worry, there's no danger in going to Professor Oak. Seeing that Grandma was firm in her attitude, Chen Shi didn't dare to refuse and quickly agreed. Then when do you plan to go there? Wait for Doranchi to evolve, which will only take a few days. I'll leave after Doranchi evolves. By the way, Grandpa and Grandma, I plan to compete for the World Championship. Can you help me prepare the resources my partners need? Grandpa Chen's eyes condensed. He understood what his grandson meant by compete. He was going to compete with those geniuses. Originally, the old man just wanted Xiaoxi to see the world and see the strength of those geniuses, because the old man knew that Xiaoxi's Pokémon strength was uneven. Only Doran and Swampert could fight, and Madame Waji could barely be counted as one, and the other Pokémon were much worse. Unexpectedly, Xiaoxi wanted to compete with those people. However, the old man did not object. He was still firm in his ideas. No matter which way Xiaoxi planned to go, he would support him. Anyway, it was just to provide some resources that were not enough for quasi-king Pokémon, and their Chen family did not lack this. Okay, don't worry, Grandpa will prepare it for you. Thank you, Grandpa. By the way, Xiaoxi, I heard that Farong also went to watch the King's show. You should have seen her, right? How is she now? Chen Shi was stunned, and then laughed, not very good. Ah, the two old men were a little nervous and asked hurriedly, nothing happened. This is given to me by an old friend, and nothing can go wrong. Chen Shi waved his hand, it's nothing, I was just cheated of all my money and I was hungry for 2 days. I also dug up a fossil of Dalama Messiah at Meteor Falls and gave it to her. Now the Zifuchi family has developed the fossil resurrection technology, and that fossil can revive a little Dalama Messiah. The two old people's faces eased. They were just cheated of money, and nothing happened. I didn't expect the Zifuchi family to really come up with that technology, it's amazing. Fossil resurrection, this is a miracle of life. Grandpa Chen was a little emotional. At this time, Grandma Chen suddenly thought of something and asked with a smile. Xiaoxi, what is your relationship with my old friend's granddaughter? I saw that girl came to you in a hurry before, and when she heard that you were not there, she left in a hurry. Chen Shi's face froze, and the movement of picking up the dishesh stopped, then said calmly, Grandma, we are just ordinary friends, don't think too much. Okay, Grandma understands, ordinary friends are good. When I was young, I was also ordinary friends with your grandfather. Chen Shi. Grandpa Chen looked at his grandson with a smile in his eyes. They were also young and experienced these things. It was obvious that these two little guys had not broken the window paper yet. Now they are too shy to say it, so they just say they are ordinary friends. But they didn't say it. If two people are destined to be together, they will naturally come together. This thing can't be rushed. Thinking of this, Grandpa Chen glanced at his wife, with some sighs in his eyes. Grandma Chen was still smiling. Xiaoxi, I think that girl is pretty good, you have to hurry up. Besides, she is the granddaughter of my old friend, we know each other well, I think it's quite suitable. Grandma, she and I are just ordinary friends, don't make this up, I'm only 16, no rush. Before Grandma Chen finished her words, she was interrupted by Chen Shi rubbing his temple. Okay, Grandma won't say anything, just know it in your heart. Chen Shi suddenly felt a headache, how could he start to push at the age of 16? However, because of precocity in this world, people reach the legal age after the age of 18, so it's not strange for him to start dating at this age. Grandma, I'm still a little sleepy, so I'll go back to bed first. You and my grandpa should go to bed early too. Okay, go upstairs and have a rest. After her grandson left, Grandma Chen said with a smile, ordinary friends, do you really think I'm an old woman who can fool you? Okay, don't worry about young people's affairs. I think these two kids haven't broken through that layer of window paper yet, so just ordinary friends are ordinary friends. Hearing this, Grandma Chen was even happier. When she thought of her grandson taking down the granddaughter of an old friend, Grandma Chen seemed to be 10 years younger. She couldn't stop smiling at all. Chen's farm, this is the third day since Chen Shi returned home. Today he has an important matter to do, so he got up early in the morning. Pakigu, don't stay in bed, get up quickly, let's go find Doranki together today. Choco. Pakigu rubbed his sleepy eyes and got up from the bed reluctantly. Let's go, Leafeon, Charmeleon, and Metalo, let's go together. The three Pokémon followed Chen Shi after hearing this. They also knew that the eldest brother Doranki should evolve today. The trainer asked him to go over to witness it. Witness the moment when the eldest brother in the team finally transformed. After going downstairs, Chen Shi ate a few bites of breakfast and went to the garden next to him. He found Mrs. Wajia, who got up early to take care of the garden. He took her to the back mountain slowly. When a person and many Pokémon came to the lair of Tyranitar, Doran seemed to know what was going to happen today and was waiting here early in the morning. On the side, Tyranitar and Garchomp were quietly waiting, and they also wanted to witness the important moment in their apprentice's life. Before they could speak, a Swampert suddenly ran over from the other side. Seeing that everyone was looking at him, Swampert scratched his head and ran behind Chen Shi. La TSS. Chen Shi smiled faintly. Doran, everyone is here today. Chia. Doran looked around and called softly, as if responding. Chen Shi didn't say anything nonsense and took out one thing after another from the space backpack behind him. Among them, there were 10 dragon gems and ghost gems, all of which were top-notch, and there was also an energy calming potion made by his grandfather. The most important thing was the black box held in Chen Shi's hand. Doran also knew what was inside and didn't care. This time, Duolongchi was not in a hurry to absorb the energy of the attribute gem, but quietly floated in the air. Chen Shi first took the calming potion and said with a sigh, "Time flies so fast, a year has passed unknowingly. Thinking back, I always held you when you were still an egg, and only put you down when taking a bath or going to the toilet. After you hatched, we were also full of confidence and said we would be invincible. But as soon as we went out, we were defeated by a green caterpillar, and then we ran back home together in shame." As if talking about the past, Chen Shi couldn't help laughing. Duolongchi's narrow eyes were full of tenderness, of course it remembered all these. Thinking about it now, it is really funny. Chen Shi walked forward and gently touched Duolongchi's flat head. In the blink of an eye, you have grown up and are about to undergo the final transformation. I can no longer call you little Duolong. While speaking, Chen Shi gave all the potions to Duolongchi. Duolongchi also knew that the time had come. All the energy of the ground attribute gems was drawn out by it and continuously absorbed into the body. At first, the energy of the attribute gems was absorbed slowly, but as Duolongchi absorbed it faster and faster, the energy of the dragon attribute and ghost attribute around him became more and more turbulent, and all gathered in Duolongchi's body. Chen Shi and the surrounding Pokémon watched this scene quietly, without making a sound to disturb him. Witnessed by his companions, the most incredible light in the world lit up on Duolong little by little. The light became more and more, brighter and more dazzling. Chen Shi also knew that it was time. He opened the small box, took out the reverse scale and threw it to Duolongchi. The latter had been waiting for this for a long time, and bit the reverse scale with his mouth. The light of evolution reached its peak instantly, and the body of Dragonki gradually stretched and expanded. The state of the head also gradually changed, becoming longer and larger, with 4 more firing ports, 2 large and 2 small. The original pattern on the abdomen became 3, the originally curved forelimbs became claws, and there was also a pair of hind claws behind. When the light of evolution completely dissipated, the brand new Dragon Boruto appeared in front of everyone. Barua! Dragon Boruto roared to the sky to express his joy. Many Pokémon cheered, as if they were happy for Dragonki. There was also a trace of relief in Dragonite's eyes. This Dragon Boruto was different from the ordinary Dragon Boruto. The pattern on his head was not dark red, but yellow, the pattern on his abdomen was also yellow, and the front claws were also yellow. This was a shining Dragon Boruto. Congratulations, Duolong Boruto. Baruya. Duolong Baruto slowly flew in front of Chen Shi and rubbed his head gently. Chen Shi smiled and touched it. At this time, there was another one on Duolong's head. A little dragon was curiously looking at the person in front of him. Then, Chen Shi's mind moved, and the data of Dragon Baruto appeared in front of him. But he was shocked when he saw it. Pokémon. Dragon Baruto, Shiny. Level. 60 Early Quasi-King. Qualification. Level 2 God. Characteristics. Penetration. Gender. Male. Skills. Bite, Lightning Flash, Scare, Hold, Surprise Attack, Strange Light, Endless Entanglement, Malicious Pursuit, Misfortunes Never Come Alone, High-Speed Movement, Shadow Ball, Rapid Turn, Dragon Dance, Shadow Sneak Attack, Dragon God Dive, Dragon Wave, Meteor Swarm, Dragon Arrow, Sacrifice Charge. When Chen Shi saw the qualification, he almost couldn't hold it. What the hell is this? Level 2 God. Is it that the level above Legend is level 2 God? Chen Shi was so happy that he made a lot of money. He was indeed the reverse scale of Giratina. He was awesome. But when he saw the skills, he was a little disappointed. How could he only learn 2 skills, and one of them was an exclusive skill? That means he learned a self-sacrificing charge after evolving. But when he looked carefully, he found something wrong. The original sneak attack turned into a shadow sneak attack. Chen Shi couldn't help rubbing his eyes, and then found that he was not wrong. He instantly showed an ecstatic look. He hugged Dragon Baruto directly. Great, Dragon, you are great. Baruya. Dragon Baruto cried softly, and carefully hugged Chen Shi with his front paws. Chen Shi still couldn't believe that Dragon Baruto could learn this trick. This is Giratina's exclusive skill. Shadow Sneak Attack. This guy really turned into a little Giratina. Just when they were happy, 2 scarlet and terrifying eyes suddenly appeared in a puddle on the other side. He looked at Duolong Baruto indifferently, and then slowly disappeared. No one noticed this scene. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.